Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with 3 S's. I'm your host here, Chantele Francis, with some preseason, off-season content for you for the challenge season 40. And with me is Matthew. So, Matthew, how are you doing today? And what do you have in store for us today? Please.
I'm doing great. I woke up this morning. It was August 1st. It's officially challenge month, so it can't be doing much better than that. What I have in store for the two of you and for the audience today is quite fun, I think. I posted a few days ago on Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, a bunch of different channels to try to gauge how the fan base is feeling heading into this monumental 40th season. So I put together a list of 40 questions, most of them multiple choice, a few kind of short answer questions there, just to kind of see how do you feel about the history of the show, the future of the show, the season we're about to embark on. And I've got 615 responses already.
Wow.
I'm sure more will kind of trickle through over the next couple weeks, but quite a bit to go off of. And what we're going to do today, we're going to have yourself and Drew give your answers. I'll give mine as well. We'll predict what the fan base has said, and we'll kind of see if we agree with the fan base and if we're concerned or alarmed in any way by what the fan base is feeling right now.
Okay, amazing. And I couldn't think of anybody better to take on this questionnaire than Drew from Angel Cake Entertainment. How are you doing today, Drew? And are you up for the challenge?
I'm doing fantastic, and yes, I am. I mean, you texted me yesterday being like, "Hey, would you be interested in this?" And just from the sound of the idea, I was like, "This sounds really, really fun." There's nothing I would want to do more than take on this questionnaire in August. Like Matt said, it's challenge month, and it's what better way to start challenge month than with this questionnaire and just seeing like what 600 other people thought about it. And I have not seen any of these questions. I have not seen the questionnaire, so I am coming in blind. So I'm very excited.
Awesome. So we're pretty early. We usually go live later on, so we don't have too many people joining us live, but we can't forget who is here. People very excited to see what's been going down on their lunch break today. And also Dabu is saying hello. So there are some of us watching live. And so if you want to peep your responses in the chat as we go along, please do. Otherwise, we'll catch you on the repeat. So
yeah, and
Matthew.
obviously middle of the day on a Thursday. Don't expect there to be too many people here live, but I did post the links on all the same channels I posted the actual questionnaire. So hopefully we'll have some people kind of chiming in the comments a little bit later on today.
Sounds
But
good.
yeah, I mean, I guess to get started here, just to kind of start off with a bit of a palate cleanser, and a common question that goes amongst the challenge community is the Mount Rushmore. So obviously we're getting into the 40th season. A lot of the Mount Rushmore people are going to be on this season, not necessarily all of them, but the first question here is the male Mount Rushmore. So I think
pull up the screen.
the best way to do it will be, I'm not going to share the results yet because I want to hear your Mount Rushmore, Drew's Mount Rushmore. And then once we get to that, we'll see what the audience has to say and kind of take it from there.
And are we doing how many people are we doing? And is it male and female, or just we'll do male and then female?
Yeah, so first question's male, second question will be female. I gave options of just kind of the big names. There also is an other option. So if I missed the person that either of you would want to pick, just kind of fill in the other. Some people did put in other. So the kind of big names are there, though. So I've got
and how many are you choosing? Just one?
We're going to choose 4. You're going to choose 4 here. I put Alton, Brad, CT, Darrell, Derek, Devin, Evan, Frank, Johnny Bananas, Jordan, Kenny, Landon, Mark, Turbo, Wes, and other. So I'm curious. I guess Chantele, we'll start with you. What would your Mount Rushmore be?
Okay, I think it's gonna have to be CT. I don't think there's any explanation needed. He has had the full journey being on, Real World Paris, being, the kid with a chip on his shoulder from Boston that comes and he's fighting and getting kicked off and giving people black eyes. And then he falls in love and has a storyline. Like, he just has had such a full, well-rounded storyline, and I've lived with him through it, to him getting married, having a child, having the dad bod, coming back to the season, not being intimidating at all, going away, coming back, getting fit, and winning back-to-back seasons, and then always being, a dominant presence on the seasons. So CT's got to be there. I'm assuming, Drew, CT will be there for you as well.
Oh man.
Or not.
Can I just say, like, starting off with this question is really difficult. Everybody is, and here's the thing with like Mount Rushmores. I just want to get into this little rant of like Mount Rushmores have like evolved over the years, where it's like not necessarily Mount Rushmore has always been looked at as like the 4 best players, but I feel like that's now the normal connotation that people take it as. And so I actually put together like a Mount Rushmore of just the challenge recently. And I did it for like different aspects of the challenge and what players like looked at as the challenge. But a lot of the times these Mount Rushmores just look at as like the 4 best players, or somebody's 4 favorite players or anything. So I'm going to be loose with this one, but with whether you look at it as the 4 best or the 4 most impactful or however, CT has to be on there.
Like, okay, I was like, what are you getting at?
I mean,
yeah, I'm with you both on CT, and I'm with you too, Drew, as well. I personally like to look at Mount Rushmore, a bit of a combination of the best and then the most impactful. So for me, I mean, spoiler alert to the female side, like I, without a doubt, have Veronica on my Mount Rushmore, and a lot of people will say Veronica hasn't really done anything in 15 years. But I disagree with that because I think she still provides quite a bit. But physically, she's clearly not a top 4 player of all time. But yeah, I agree. I like to look at it as both. I think for the men, it's a little trickier just because the men have won the same, like 3 or 4 men have won so much. Or really 5 men have won basically every season for the last 20 years. So it's harder to find those kind of diamonds in the rough amongst the men. But yeah, I mean, CT is definitely there.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty much agreeing with Hannah here. I think that these are the men that I'd put on. I mean, there's a lot of honorable mentions for sure, but when I think of the challenge, these are the 4 men that will probably come to top of mind. They've been on seasons recently. They, obviously are the most winningest men on the seasons. They're still physically dominant. They've been on our TVs for a long time. They all started from, surprisingly, the real world, when I'm usually a Road Rules girly. But yeah, they're all started from different seasons of the real world. So we've seen them grow up and live through a lot of their life choices and decisions. And so for me, that's a qualifier for the Mount Rushmore, is like me being on a life journey with them.
Yeah.
I would agree with 2 of those names out of those 4. Right now, the 3 that are coming up to me is definitely Johnny Bananas. I mean, he's been one of the most impactful on and off of the challenge. I mean, he's been on multiple reality shows. People know him from his stealing Sarah's money and stuff, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, so I think that he's been very impactful. I think Mark should have an etch face on there, being one of the first road rulers to ever win the challenge. He was on the first Road Rules season. He has an incredible social game. He was the godfather for a reason, as well as he helped create All-Stars, the All-Stars series, and push that into play, which I kind of revitalized some of the fandom and helped out Paramount Plus get some new subscriptions. So, I mean, Viacom definitely. So I feel like those 3 are like my 3 right now. And then there's like a battle for fourth place at this moment, where you could make I think you could make an argument for multiple different people to be on there, like say Darrell, who was the winningest player for a long time. He started off, he was very impactful early on in the competition. I think you could put Jordan in there for how impactful he's been recently, ever since he came in late era 3 or mid era 3, up until coming into season 40. He's always been really, really solid. Those two are the ones that are warring right now. You could also put in Wes. He's also had some really good storylines, but I feel like his impact has been kind of squelched a little bit just because of how hit or miss or not like hit or miss, but how available he's been to the franchise over his years. So I don't know. I think you could make an argument for any of those players, and you could it could be the right choice at this moment. I think I would go. I think I would lean Darrell just because of thinking of presidents, they're old and stuff, and so thinking of the history and legacy that he has.
100%.
I would put maybe Darrell with a statue-esque of Jordan right next to the entrance of you walking up to the Mount Rushmore.
I could swap out Jordan for Darrell just for the lastingness, the length of his whole career span.
Yeah.
Does fall more in line with the qualities that I was kind of attributing to the other three men. So, and I could definitely put Mark Long there. I think he well deserves, a spot on the Mount Rushmore. He is the challenge, so it's true.
I think it really just depends how you're looking at it. Obviously, if you're just pure impact on the franchise, Mark is arguably number one. I mean, he started the thing. He restarted All Stars, so he brought everyone back, or he was a driving force behind that. I think a name that nobody's mentioned yet, which at least warrants a little bit of consideration, would be Landon. I know he was only there for a short time. If you are looking at it in terms of just pure challenge ability, I think he's definitely up there. I personally went kind of with the chalk pick, and I did do CT Bananas, Jordan, and Wes as well. Just because they just won so much. And I mean, Mark is obviously super impactful, but I just think in terms of pure ability, he's quite a bit behind those four. But I mean, you can't go wrong with Mark, Darrell, and then Landon was great for the little time we had him, but I think might have been a little too short.
I do want to give it a shout out, because something that I thought about when I was creating a random Mount Rushmore in my own spare time was Derek. Just not from a player playing standpoint, because he always played defense. He was a little in the background a couple of times, but I think that his impact on the challenge outside of the game, by having this Challenge Mania podcast and having it for so many years, I feel like he's the one that started the trend. He was on the one that he was one of the first players to ever have a podcast, long-standing, kept the community around the challenge game, and had that driving force to where now there's a ton of challenge players that now have podcasts. Zach, Sarah, Susie, and then
we were the first. No, you were
fans.
the first.
So I think Derek's impact on the game, from that aspect, I think deserves a nod. But yeah, I don't know if he deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore, but it was something that came to my mind when I thought of this question too.
Maybe a small statue at the entrance, or at the base.
at the gift shop, Yeah.
Well, I mean, in terms of the audience response, we'll take a look there. The audience, for the most part, pretty chalk as well. It's just I have to load here, but pretty crazy. CT 97.5% of the votes.
Yeah.
Not super surprising. Bananas just behind 88.5%. Jordan was at 78.5, and then Wes a little bit behind at 61.2. So the audience, for the most part, did go with the kind of chalk there. Some other kind of notable things here. Landon did get 14%. Mark was a little bit behind, 9.2%. And Derek was at 10.9. And I think I said Darrell, but Darrell was at 26%. So those were kind of the big vote getters there. A few random votes. One for Horacio, which is a little odd. Hi, Diana. A few Ms. votes, a Leroy, Tony, and a few Kenny turbos just thrown in there as well.
Okay. This is very interesting to me. I love stats, so this is very interesting to me.
Yeah, I've
Do you
honestly,
want a
I've been
copy of the
refreshing.
questionnaire?
Yeah, I've been looking at it like every few hours. I'm just opening up my computer and checking it out to see like how it's been changing throughout the last 2-3 days. But it's definitely very interesting. Some of the next questions will get a little bit more interesting because that one was kind of the obvious choices, even though I mean, you both made some good points for some other people as well. But yeah, now on to the females. Kind of same thing. Put the kind of big names here. So I'll just read off who I put. These are probably the names we'll talk about most. But you got Aneesa, Ashley Mitchell, Cara Maria, Coral, DM, Emily, Evelyn, Jenny West, Jodi, Jonna, Kaycee, Laurel, Paula, Rachel, Sarah Rice, Susie, Tori, and Veronica. So again, pretty tough. Why don't we start with Drew on this one? I know it's tough for you juggling all that, but
this is actually very interesting because like going through the names, I'm like, oh, I wrote down 3 names while we were finishing up the men, and then now when you were like naming off other competitors, I'm like, ooh, yeah. I'm gonna go with the chalk answer pretty easily. I was gonna say Veronica. He brought her up last time. I think Veronica in the era 1 was the challenge. I mean, she had some of the biggest moments. Just looking over the Julie versus Veronica versus Katie. She was the driving strategic force behind the season. She was the winningest player up until Darrell surpassed her in fresh meat. I just think like her contribution to like jump starting where the challenge would ultimately go is like undervalued just because she hasn't been able to do a whole lot recently in the modern era of the challenge. So from where the challenge started, I'm sure nobody voted for her. She got like 8%, but I'm gonna throw a hat in the ring for her. Cara Maria, I think, is definitely going to be part of 97% of the votes would have said Cara Maria. And then I also have Evelyn. And that 4th spot is kind of like up there for me. I think Coral has a really good. I think Coral should be up there in this as well. So maybe that will be my 4th pick. Would be Coral for her impact in the game. But I could see like the people picking like Laurel and Cara Maria, Tori. Yeah, I'll just say it. I'll say the people pick Tori. I don't think she's gonna get many votes here. But yeah, those will be my 4. But that last spot I feel like could go anywhere.
well, I will say people definitely did vote for Tori. We'll see how much. There have been about 10 new votes, but I will say the 4th spot was very close, even as recently as last night. So we'll see there. But Chantele, do you agree with Drew? Anything you would swap there?
I mean, Cara Maria, no doubt. I think a lot of the people that got the home turf episodes are kind of in contention here.
Yeah, so you're right. Big T is definitely going to be in here.
I said a lot of, not all. As I was speaking, that I'm thinking like,
oh, Ashley. That's another one.
Yeah, Ashley was the second person that I was thinking of.
Definitely
Ashley.
She's
had a pretty big journey. She had that moment where she took the money from Hunter, and that was a legendary moment. It was a defining moment in the challenge. Like, we saw Bananas do something like that, but we've never seen a woman like do that and be ahead of the guy to be able to take the money. So I think that she deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore for the fact that people know when you're saying Ashley Mitchell, Millionaire Mitchell, whatever, like who you're talking about. So I think that she deserves to be up there. I think Laurel obviously deserves a spot. She disappeared for a little bit, but then she's come back, and since then she's won. Like, so she's still got it in her. to be able to keep her legendary status. Now I find it interesting that I have two fresh meat people here. I kind of, with my qualifiers for the men, it was like seeing a full journey. But I do think with both of them, we've seen quite a bit of a journey with Cara Maria and Laurel, with their friendship, even with their start from fresh meat to going to where they are now in the challenge series. Who's my fourth person though? There's so many really good people. Like, a lot of people that the people are suggesting here in the chat. Like, I do love DM. I think that she's definitely could be an honorable mention.
Well, I will say I actually did put DM as my fourth, ahead of Laurel and Coral. For me, I mean, obviously for the men, I went with more of the chalk picks because they've just been way more successful than the other men in the challenge history. For the women, I did kind of look at it different. I mean, no woman has more than 3 championships. And I did put Cara and Veronica on my Mount Rushmore anyways. But to me, like, DM has some of the best moments in the show history, and I think really helped put the show on the map as well. I mean, obviously, her whole journey was completely heartbreaking. Like, her relationship with CT was massive. It made CT turn from kind of that bad boy to the guy that everyone loves now, or was a large reason behind it. But I don't want DM's story to be only CT, obviously. Her final season, I can't watch it anymore. I can't rewatch that season because it is just so depressing seeing her leave the game with CT by her side, knowing that she passes away shortly after. So I think for me, in a similar light as Coral being there more for her impact on the game, to me, like, DM has that impact that when I look at the challenge, when all is said and done, she will probably be one of the 2 or 3 people that I remember most from the challenge.
Yeah.
Agreed. What does the audience say? Let's hear.
Yeah, so the audience vote here was much more interesting. I mean, Drew was dead on with Cara. Cara overwhelmingly was the leader here with 88.3%, so slightly less than CT, but pretty darn close. Laurel was second, 72. Obviously, physically, arguably the best. And then we have Evelyn at 51, and very close for 25% for Tori, 24.5 for Rachel. So very close. And then Ashley, 21%, Veronica, 17%, Sarah Rice, 11%. So that fourth spot was really kind of up in the air, but it did end up going to Tori. Maybe a little bit of recency bias, but obviously, I mean, we'll give Tori her credit too. She's a good competitor, a great competitor. She's really made an impact over the last 10 seasons. So I wouldn't put her in my top 6 or 7 probably, but when all said and done, I could see
top 10 for sure.
Yeah, top 10.
I want to say how proud I am of everybody that Evelyn got over 50%. Like, I was every time like we do some of these kind of like things, I always worry that the recency bias or what have you done for me lately kind of creeps into everybody's minds. And a lot of the times it feels like kind of like with Veronica and everything, it's like, oh, well, they were great back when they were doing carnival games, and like that can quickly like eat into like the legacy of these players that really helped set the footing for this show. So I'm just really happy that people are giving Evelyn her flowers, at least getting third place on this one. So I appreciate everybody doing that.
And Sophie's giving Matthew his flowers now too.
Yeah, I didn't put Kellyanne, Katie, or Amanda, who are some of my personal favorites, on there, but I will say Amanda did get 1 vote, which is not from me. Someone did write her in, so she got 1. I didn't mention Coral got 14%, DM 14.7, Emily 15.5. So it was very close to that 4th spot. Camilla, I forgot to put in. Obviously, we all know the issues with Camilla. There's no denying she was a great competitor. So she did get a number of write-in votes as well. Obviously, if she was a bit of a better person, then she'd probably get a little bit more love, but I will kind of mention Camilla did get a bunch of write-in votes there.
Real quick, I'm surprised Emily got so little votes, because every time I like look up like, and anytime one of these like lists shows up of like the top 50 competitors or anything, Emily is always like the first woman mentioned or in the top 5 or in the top 10. And I'm very surprised that only 15% of the vote. I'm
There's
proud
just
of
there's so
everybody.
many, I think, women that are like, oh, like you brought up some that I was like, oh, I didn't even think about them. And so I think that this, because there's just more people to choose from that are around the same level of like Rushmore-ness.
Yeah, and I guess the thing with Emily is we really haven't seen her in quite a while, so maybe
Yep.
people just kind of forgot. It does seem, and we'll see with some of the later questions, it does seem like a lot of the people that filled out the questionnaire were slightly more recent watchers or a little bit more casual, which we can kind of see by the Tori vote here. So I imagine a lot of people don't know Emily, which does make it even more impressive that Evelyn was able to get the 51% there. So
Yeah.
I was super happy with that. I personally would probably, swap up like a Veronica or a DM myself, but congrats to Tori. She made the top 4. And she also made Paulie Calafiori's top 4. He did one on Johnny Fairplay's podcast, and he put Tori in his top 4. So that was interesting to say the least.
Oh, gotta look forward to that. Trying to like buy their way into the Vacation Alliance. That's gonna be so much fun to watch coming into season 40.
Yeah.
Woo! All right. Question number 2. We can't take that long for the rest of them. We'll never get through 40.
No. Oh no. Most of the other ones are gonna be way quicker to get through.
Yeah, I was about to say we could have like a full like 2-hour-long discussion about Mount Rushmores and what we could be like. That's why when you started off with that question, it's like, okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I started off with the kind of big one. It gets much more like yes, no, like choose a person from here on out. So there will be a few where there'll be a little bit more discussion, but you'll see that the next question very simply, favorite era 1 man. So I guess of the 5 men, Brad, CT, Darrell, Derek, and Mark, who is your favorite? We all know who the audience is going to pick, but I'm curious to know what percent of the audience do you think picked CT? And then would you also agree that CT is your favorite?
I'm going to say that 81% of the people would have chosen CT, and I would like to agree.
I will take pretty much the same percentage that he just got voted into the Mount Rushmore and say it's like 95+% compared to these other 4 men. I think they're all good, but I think that when no holds bar, it's CT. And I would agree with CT. I got to interview Brad for one of the exit interviews, and he was like my favorite interview. So he like holds a special place in my heart. But I can't, when next to CT, you gotta go with CT.
Yeah, I would go CT as well. I mean, I'm a big Mark fan. Love Darrell as well. Derek, Brad, they're fine. They're fine for me, but I would go CT. He's one of my favorites. I'll do the woman as well. We'll look at them both together. So favorite era 1 woman, we got Aneesa, Jodi, Katie, Rachel, and Tina. This one for me, I'll start off, was pretty tough because I do love Katie. I also love the Mean Girls. So I was really torn on this one. I did ultimately go with Katie at the end of the day. Veronica is my favorite challenge contestant of all time. If she was on the cast, obviously she'd have my pick. But I did go Katie. I just love I love the spice that she brings. I love how she comes on the show still and does not care to be there. I just find it super entertaining. And when she goes home pretty quickly every time, she just does not give a shit. So that to me is pretty refreshing. But where do you guys stand on the women, and what do you think the audience will say here?
For me, I'm going to say Tina, especially since she liked my reply. I was on the Challenge Fanatics podcast. So was Drew. I think his episode dropped as well. I did era 1. You did era 2, I believe.
Yeah.
And so they tweeted out the link and of the episode, and she liked and retweeted it twice. And then I responded, and she liked my retweet or comment. So
Nice.
I gotta say Tina, because I like people with chutzpah. Like, I want people with energy, with attitude, that like they're funny. Like, she's just, for me, someone I would hang out with. Probably I would be in the Mean Girls Alliance for sure. Like, that, she would be my people. So I'm not really judging it on, you know, how strong she is, and you know how much she can win stuff. I think that I would want to hang out with her the most if out of the Era 1 women. So Tina.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I think the audience is going to be between Rachel and Tina with us. I think first is going to be Rachel. Then I think Tina is going to be second. I personally think that from an all around standpoint, I would lean more to Tina, as like she's going to like bring it. I think Rachel brings it in the competition, but Tina really like brings it everywhere else. Like,
And
she
PJ
can like,
loves her. So
yeah. I would say Tina I'm rooting for, but I think the audience voted Rachel as like the number one.
Especially if they're new fans, they probably love being strong.
Ugh, those
All right.
workouts. I mean, they probably didn't vote for her.
Yeah,
to
well, I
rap
will
those
say,
workouts.
Oops.
yeah, the men, I mean, as we kind of predicted, pretty big blowout, 71%. So you guys were a bit high.
Wow.
So CT with 71. We have Darrell with 14, Derek with 9.3, Brad with 3.4, and poor Mark only had 2% with 12 votes out of 611. The Godfather gets 12 votes, but I mean, kind of sucks because I feel like if it was a ranking system, he would get a lot of second place votes. But yeah, 2% is a little too low for Mark, in my opinion.
I am so confused. All these guys were in the Mount Rushmore question. How are you going to vote CT 97% and then he only gets 71? Come on. This is so,
Yeah.
I'm so confused by 611 people.
So
Not
it makes
600,
me think
like-
that for Mount Rushmore, they were probably looking just at kind of physical ability or challenge ability. And now here it's like, all right, my personal preference.
Okay, that
Which
makes
makes
sense.
why Derek got a little bit of votes there because he obviously has his fan base. But yeah, 71. I was surprised. I thought it was going to be a little bit higher, closer to 80%. The women's side, very, very tight. And they all got a nice chunk. So 29.7 for Rachel, 21.8 for Tina, 15.6% for Katie, 17.2 for Jodi, and 15.6 for Aneesa. So honestly, pretty impressive for all five. No major blowout there. Yeah, Rachel coming in just under 30%. I thought this one was very interesting, though.
Yeah. I love this.
That's really, really shocking. Well, not shocking, but it just shows that the women, it's a little bit harder to, like, the men, you're like, okay, it's very clear with the men, I would say. And the women, it's like a little bit more malleable, like what people like about what they get received from them on their screen. And there's more options, it seems.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show they did do a pretty good job with the casting for Era 1 in particular. I mean, for the women, obviously super tight there. I do wonder if a Veronica or Coral was there, would that number skyrocket for them? I don't know necessarily for sure, but yeah, I thought this was super interesting. I did also send a screenshot of the Era 1 poll to Tina and Rachel, and they both quote tweeted it and got it out to their followers. So maybe that helped bump it up a little bit. But I tend to I tend to kind of agree for the most part that all five of these have like a pretty decent case to be made here for being like a favorite amongst. Obviously, Aneesa will have her fans. I'm not necessarily the biggest one, but I do love Jodi quite a bit. A little bit more on the boring side at this point in her career, but yeah, I think Rachel, Tina, and Katie are all pretty awesome choices.
All
Okay, so
right.
now we'll move on. Same thing, Era 2. So first will be Era 2 men. We have, of course, oh, sorry, we're not going to move on to Era 2. We have one more question for Era 1. So this question is, which Era 1 man that's not on the cast do you wish was on the cast? You don't have to replace anyone. We can talk about that. But the options I put were Abram, Adam Larson, Alton, Eric Neese, Kifla, Landon, Shane, Cyrus, The Miz, and Yes. Obviously, I'm going to do this assuming everyone is willing to participate. We know The Miz is not coming back. We know Abram is not coming back for other reasons. But yeah, just if it were up to you for entertainment purposes, for nostalgia purposes, who would you choose? And there is an other option as well if there's someone I didn't list there.
I mean, when you said his name, I smiled quite brightly. I'm going to have to go Kifla. He was such a breath of fresh air when he returned to our screens. Most of us didn't even remember his original seasons that he was on, but we were just so happy to have him back. So Kifla, 100%. You know, we talked a lot about when he did that challenge and he pretends to hurt his ankle and he falls and he starts twerking on the ground. Like he's just a good guy that wants to be there, that like had something reignited in him when he came back to the challenge. And I would love to see him on another season. I'm actually surprised that he didn't get a call for this one. Well, I guess there wasn't that many spaces, but I think he should be next on the call list.
Yeah, personally, I would say Kifla. But I think the audience overwhelmingly was going to say Landon. That's what I think. I think he's been away for too long, or been away for long enough to where people are like looking at his stats and being like, I just want to see him back. I want to see that beast back on the challenge and kind of like going at it, see what he can do now. And he still seems to be in really good shape. He just makes too much money to the point where he doesn't need to go to reality TV. He's fine without it, everybody. He won. Yeah. He won.
I would love to see Kifla back as well. I personally I was torn between two. It was Kifla and Shane. I did end up going with Shane just because the chaos that he brings. Like I think the one area where Era 1 is lacking on the male side is they don't really have anyone that stirs it up a ton. And I think Shane is someone that would really do just that. I would love to see Shane back on the show with Amanda as well. So I personally went Shane, but I love Kifla. A few others, obviously Landon would be pretty fun. The Miz would be really exciting. And Yes, too. I think Yes has kind of made a mark on World Championship kind of and All-Stars. Yeah, a little bit more boring.
I'll take Tech Money over what? Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Tech's one I forgot. A few people did put in Theo Vaughn as well as someone I forgot. I'm not super interested in seeing that, to be honest. But I went Shane, but Kifla I back. And then just move on to the women, and then we'll do the results. So for the Era 1 woman you wish was on the cast, I have Beth, Coral, Hisela, Julie, Kendall, Keena, Ronnie, Ruthie, Sarah Grayson, Susie, and Veronica. Or other, if there's anyone I missed there.
I mean, there's no other. It'd be Coral, of course. Coral is somebody that we've been begging to see again. I feel like I heard through the grapevine that she got some calls, but she said she declined. Yeah. But she's still being asked. And so we may get a season where she comes back, and I would love to see it. She was definitely someone that I was rooting for, whether, I remember being so upset when when she hurt herself and she had to leave the show. Like, I just loved Coral so much. She was just so genuine. She was so herself, and that's kind of what they were casting for back then. And she was one of those people that I really, really, really enjoyed watching. So Coral's for me, hands down. And let me think about the audience one, though.
I'm going to say Coral, number 1. And then Veronica is a close number 2. I mean, we just got to see the Mean Girls Alliance kind of like reunite on All-Stars 4, but I feel like we didn't get the full Mean Girls experience or get to see their dynamic long enough. So I think a flagship show would have been like the season where that they could stir the pot. They have a little bit more looser feel to it. And I think that would have been incredible. So I think those two legends would be my 2 picks. I think gosh, I have no idea what the audience would say. I think the audience would say Coral if they're saying Evelyn. In the other polls, I'm like, maybe they know their stuff from back in the day. So I'm gonna say that they wanted Coral.
Totally agree, Nikki.
Yeah,
They're so good.
Oh yeah, the casting back in the day was just always on point. For me, again, like obviously Coral, Veronica are the top 2 for me as well. I personally went with Veronica slightly ahead of Coral. Obviously, seeing Coral there would just be crazy. When the cast list pops up and or the cast spoilers pop up, you see Coral, everyone would be fainting. But Veronica wouldn't be as exciting there. But I think Veronica at this point is still showing strategically she's got a lot of game in her. Coral would be interesting to see what she has, but I would kind of worry a little bit that she just is coming in with no connections. And well, it would still be fun. If she isn't as physical as she once was, I'd be a little bit concerned just due to the lack of connections. But can't go wrong with either. Now to the results. For Era 1 man, Landon 42% was pretty heavy favorite there. The Miz 19.4, Abram at 11.9, and then Shane 7.4. Everyone else just stayed.
Where the heck is Kifla?
Kifla only had 4.6%, which was unfortunate. So yeah, they don't agree with us on that one. Landon, I think we all expected to be number one.
I could expect Landon to be the person there, but
yeah. And then a few write-ins for Theo, Timmy, and someone wrote in Derek. Well, Derek is actually on the cast, so somebody really likes Derek. Any takeaways there, or kind of what we expected with the male results?
I expected this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Maybe a little bit more for Kifla, considering he was just on recently, and he was such like a shining light. So yeah, so many Kifla haters, right? But yeah, a lot of people like had to go with like Landon, like Kunoichi here is saying. So
yeah,
I like putting all your eggs in the Kifla basket might have been harder for people. That if there were maybe a couple choices, he might have been the second choice.
Yeah. For the women, Coral, pretty overwhelming favorite as well, 40.3%. Veronica was second, but quite a bit behind at 15.7. Susie, pretty close to Veronica, 13.9. And then we have Ruthie at 9.4, which was a little surprising. Kendall and Beth at about 5.6 and 5.8. And then everyone else just a handful of votes there. Couple write-ins. I forgot to put Trishelle on there. Definitely kind of deserves at least a name recognition there. Robin, Heather Cook, and Montana received some write-ins as well.
Wow, that's a throwback. I did not expect Montana to get one vote, but shout out to Montana.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Yeah, so Coral and Landon. Now, to put you guys on the spot, if they were on the cast, whose spot would you give them?
Aneesa.
Dang. Right off the rip.
Yeah, like, I would personally do Aneesa, but like being realistic, I mean, Aneesa's gonna be there.
Yeah, she needs to like get people prep for the podcast.
Or maybe Jodi. Yeah, I'd probably maybe Brad. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Brad.
Yeah, I feel like Brad is probably the.
I know he's your favorite interview, Drew, but
wow, those eyes though.
Actually, no. Yeah, no. I do that. I agree with you, level Nikki. I forgot that Derek is on this. Yeah, I do Derek. I don't care for Derek right now. A lot of people are saying Brad and Aneesa or Derek and Aneesa for the most part. Exactly. We've
For
seen her
Eric,
so many times.
yeah. All right, era 2. So favorite man and woman. For the men, we have Brandon, Derek, Johnny Bananas, Nehemiah, and Ryan. I mean, again, it's pretty clear who the audience will pick, but curious who you would pick. And then, because for me, this one is kind of tough because I'm not a bananas boy. Um, and curious what you think the audience would say there. And then for the women, we, of course, have Aviv, Cara Maria, Emily, Kellyanne, and Laurel.
All right.
Sorry, I need to see these names again.
Here's the thing. If CT only got 71% of the votes in Era 1, but Era 1 has, I want to say, more recognizable names that people like ride or die for, I'm going to say Bananas has to be around the same thing. So I'm going to say 75% vote of the audience voted for Bananas. I'll say Bananas with a close second being Nehemiah. I'm really actually very happy that Nehemiah is on this cast. I just wish that Wes was also there so that he would have some backup or more recognizable backup, because he was on All Stars 3. And I think that like he was on there with like Naya and Jordan, and they talked about how close they got on that season. So I'm hoping like that will help him in some way with Wes not being there. But those are my top 2 guys in the Era 1. But yeah, Johnny Bananas is like the number 1. I think I'm looking forward to. Except I hate his freaking goatee. What the heck is that? Like, should have kept the beard. I know it's getting gray, but just keep it, dude. Like, what the hell are you doing with that mustache? And get out of here with that.
And what is he doing on Chicks in the Office? What is his interview about?
So, well, I will say the one thing I'm kind of liking about Bananas right now, and I can't even believe I'm saying I like something about Bananas, is I'm a big Love Island fan right now, as you know, Chantele. And Bananas has recently got into Love Island. And over the last couple weeks since the show ended, he is literally having every single 21-year-old girl on his podcast.
Ugh.
And it's very creepy, but
it was Danielle's was cringe. He really
Yeah.
wanted her to know how cool he is.
it's definitely very cringe, and he talks a lot about himself on there, but he is giving me content, more Love Island content, so I do appreciate that. And I just find it like super weird but funny that he's just having these like 21 to 25-year-old girls on, trying to recruit them to the challenge. And it's like, if he can get these girls on the challenge, I will be very happy, because they're all extremely entertaining and I love most of them. But Bananas has been on quite the Love Island journey, along with
I mean,
a
he's
lot
full
of
on
others.
clout chasing, right? Like he knows it's the hugest show of the summer, and he just wants to get a little sprinkle of that success and maybe a girlfriend out of it. So
Yeah. So Chantele, what do you think the
I
audience
definitely
would
think
say?
Bananas is going to be the pick here. And I'm going to go higher just because I don't think that I'm going to go with what I gave CT. I'm going to give to Bananas, and that is 81% here.
Solid.
And for the women,
the women.
I'm gonna say Cara Maria is the number 1 for the audience. I think we're gonna get something similar to what we saw in Era 1, but with Laurel and Cara, and then maybe Emily is also in there. I think people are a little bit not knowing what they can expect from Aviv, and for the life of me, I can't remember the 5th woman. Kellyanne. That's right. I think Kellyanne's going to be actually up at the top 3. I think Kellyanne, Laurel, and Cara Maria are going to be in the top 3. But I think Cara's going to pull out the vote, and I'll give my vote to Cara Maria, and then Kellyanne is a close second.
And yeah, I'm doing Cara Maria, and I think it's going to be at about 70%. No, 65%. What's that face for? What are you going to clip this face that you're making here, Drew?
I'm going to say 22% for Cara, Laurel, and Kellyanne. I think there's going to be a 3-way tie. That's going to be very close.
I think it's going to be a big spike, and then no, I'll say you have a good point because Laurel's there too.
Yeah.
I still think she's going to go high though. Okay. 51%. Okay, I'm coming down.
51%.
Yeah,
Okay, down
exactly.
65 to 51. I will say it's a good thing you went down because it is going to be closer to 50. My personal choice would be Kellyanne, but I do love Cara as well. So for me, it would be Kellyanne 1 and Cara slightly behind. But the audience has gone with, for the men, Bananas 64.3%.
Wow.
Nehemiah was second at 15.2. And then we
Love it.
have Brandon, surprisingly. Oh, sorry. My apologies. Derek with 9, Brandon at 7.8, and Ryan with only 3.8%.
Yeah.
So Bananas was pretty well ahead. Nehemiah got a
Wow.
chunk there. The women, again, much more interesting, but
Wow.
Cara coming in at 54.2. And then we have Emily at 12.4, Laurel at 15.7, Kellyanne at 15.2, and Aviv, unfortunately, at 2.5. So yeah, Kellyanne and Laurel very close there, just about even. And then Cara, of course, taking just over 50%.
Wow. Nice. That's a lot more than I thought, but
I guess, does that mean that you were wrong, Drew?
for what? I'm looking at it that I said Laurel, Cara, and Kellyanne were in the top 3. So even though that's 60% of like the just 5 women, I'll take that. But 54% is, I think, really, really shocking but I think that's really solid. Bananas is shocking to me that it wasn't more. I think I underestimated how much Derek and Brandon would combine, and I definitely underestimated Nehemiah. I thought he was going to get like 12%, but 15% is really solid for like 600 votes. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I think Derek got a bit of a push after All Stars 4 there. So normally, I honestly expected Derek to be around the same as Ryan and getting just a handful of votes there, but obviously performed quite well and ended up being a little bit higher there. So I think Bananas lost a few points in that regard. But now on to the snubs. Now for the men, should be pretty easy here. Curious to see what you guys think in terms of our percentage. But just for the sake of it, I did put a few other men on the option list. So we have Big Easy, CJ, Kahada, Dunbar, Evan, Kenny, MJ, Ty, Tyler, Tyree, and of course, Wes Bergman. So, I mean, we know Wes is going to win, but how much is Wes going to win by in the audience's mind?
I've been so high every single time. I want to say 83%, but I'm going to go round where Bananas was because you also have Kenny and Evan in there. And some people think that they want to see them back on the challenge for some reason. So I'm going to say, and I think Kutta got some votes. I'm going to say 71%. That is for Wes. And I agree with Wes. And I would swap out Wes with Ryan and put Wes in there. Just throw that out there.
Okay, I'll agree with the swap. Sorry, Ryan. And I'm going to go higher than, you said 71%?
Yeah.
I say higher than 71%.
I can totally see it.
And yeah, swap out Ryan. Do you want us to do the women too?
Yeah, we'll do the women. We'll just do them both together. It'll be easier that way. So for the women, we have Camilla, Kaycee, Evelyn, Janelle, Jen, Johanna, Mandy, Melinda, Paula, Sarah Rice, Teresa, and Tori Hall. Now, I have to say, the women that are not on the cast are so strong in Era 2, which is crazy because the women on the cast are also super strong. I mean, the fact that you have Sarah Rice, Paula, Teresa, Jen, I mean, Camilla, Evelyn, like, you could take away the 5 that are cast on the show and replace them with those 5, and it would still be the strongest group of women, which is pretty crazy. It's a shame that Era 2 was really run by the JEK Alliance because the women were just so powerful there. And they did get a lot of shine, but they could have got even more. So just wanted to give that shout out there. I'll start with my personal choice would be probably Evelyn. just because it would be so fun to see her back. I do really love Teresa as well, so I want to give her a shout out. And I think Sarah Rice would be really fun just to have that reunion with Bananas. But personally, I'd probably just go with Evelyn.
I definitely am going to go with Evelyn. I think that because there are so many really strong women that people will support, that it won't be a landslide. So I'm going to go Evelyn 35%, and she would swap out. Ooh. Aviv. Get rid of her. Sorry.
Wow. There is a name that I forgot to mention for the men, and that's Tyler. I think Tyler Duckworth would have been really cool to see on the cast as well, being reunited with like Bananas and being on there with Kellyanne and how close they were. But we moved on. For the women, I would say Evelyn is my number one. Paula would be my number two. And I personally, because I am petty and I feel like she's overrated and I'm a hater, whatever you want to call me. But I'm going to say Emily. I don't think she adds too much to the show besides being strong. And I feel like we have really strong women. So I would rather put in Evelyn and Paula for Emily. And I would rather see somebody that we haven't seen in quite some time, an unpredictable factor with Aviv.
Got a point.
So I would swap out with Emily. But I think the audience would swap them out with Aviv. With 2.2%.
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't mind Aviv staying in there. For the men, West pretty overwhelming, 63.6%. So I think it was pretty close to what you guys were predicting there.
I said higher, so I lose.
I said 71%.
Yeah, a little bit higher.
But so bad.
Yeah. So it was around what Bananas had got there. Kenny did get 12.4. I mean, obviously, he still has his fans. But Kahada 11.7, and then everyone else just a very small percent. Tyler only 2.8. I do think he deserves a little bit more there. But Wes obviously overwhelming, and it does feel a little off to not have Wes there. I know he semi-retired, but he is doing a bunch of other shows, so I think Wes really should have been here. Yeah. Now for the women, again, much more interesting, but Evelyn's still pretty well ahead at 40.1%. Sarah next at 22, Paula at 12.2, Teresa at 8.5, Camilla at 7.7, and then everyone else just a very small percent. I do love the shout out here for Svetlana, got one write-in votes. That would be kind of a Aviv like and having her pop up there,
but like I remember her.
Not hate it. yeah, but really this one kind of came down to Evelyn, Sarah Rice, and then a little bit of love for Paula and Teresa.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty expected there. We'll move on to era 3. So for era 3, we have, of course, for the men, Cory, Devin, Jordan, Leroy, and Tony, which is pretty a pretty strong group. I think for the snub in that category, it's going to be tough to find someone to take out there. I mean, I know Nelson's been a big name if he was physically able. But in terms of the era 3 men, who is your personal favorite, and what do you think the audience picked?
This one's actually interesting to me, to where I feel like we're going to get like the era 1 women chart for this one, where there's a lot more like personality for all these guys. Maybe not so much Devin, but I think it's going to come down to like Jordan, Leroy, and Cory being up at the top. I think Tony's going to get a good amount of votes because I think people were like itching to see him on All Stars 4 and wasn't able to see him do anything. And I think Devin, ever since joining the Vacation Alliance, has kind of lost some favor with some of the fans. I think he had like everybody in the palm of his hand when he was yelling "Big Brother sucks." But the very next season, he's like riding in the car with his 2 best buddies of Fessel and Josh.
Now
and it's like,
he's dating someone I find very annoying. So,
all right. And then they call each other Dave and everything. It's just weird. It's a weird situation, and I wish he wasn't here. Anyways, I'm gonna say Jordan is the number 1 vote. But it's close with the top 3 being Jordan, Leroy, and Cory. I personally love Cory, So I'm rooting for him. But it's close between Jordan and Cory, kind of like, just because Jordan is like always like super like in shape and everything, and this is like, he thrives on competition like this, so it's going to be very interesting to see what he can do on a season like this. But that's my pick.
I would say the audience is going to choose Jordan, but I'm personally going to choose Leroy. I know he's been disappointing me a little bit, but I still like him as a human being. I still want to see him do well, so I want to see him, win the season, be on the season. And yeah, we were wanting him to come out of retirement. We didn't think that he was actually going to go in, and he didn't really. So yeah, I'm going to choose Leroy for my heart pick. But I think the audience is going to choose Jordan, and I say probably 40% of the audience will choose Jordan.
Okay. And for the women, I think this is another really interesting one. We have Amanda, Averey, Jonna, Nia, and Tori. So, I mean, everyone knows Tori is kind of one of the ringleaders of the Vacation Alliance. So a lot of what Drew just mentioned about Devin is going to be the same for Tori, but I do feel like Tori does have her fan base as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the flip side, I mean, Amanda is very anti-Tori. So do you think that will cause more people to vote for Amanda or less people for Amanda? Is someone else going to sneak in there? What do you guys feel about Era 3 for the women?
I think Tori's going to get the votes.
Yeah.
Just for the fact that you said that seemingly is a lot of recency bias here, maybe new fans. And so I think that Tori is going to probably lock some of those in. So I think she's probably going to also do about 40%. But I'm personally choosing Amanda because she is a more fun character for me. I know that she's not a challenge beast and she's not going to go and hall brawl. I know that, but I also know that she can clap back like no other. And I find clapbacks more entertaining than broken bones. So I would do Amanda for my personal choice.
Agreed. Everything that Chantele said, I agree with. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Whoever we're swapping in, I'm swapping out Averey. Just like I'm not swapping out Tori here, and I know like people are gonna be like, "Whoa, not Tori? Why not Tori? We've seen her."
Tori can be there.
But this is the season you want if you're like a Tori like not Stan, but the opposite of Stan. Like if you want her on this cast because this is like the strongest women cast that we have had that she's gonna have to face, and you want to see what she can do against Laurel, Cara, Rachel, Jodi. Name everybody on this cast. Like she's gonna have to work for it this season, I feel, outside of like her own like friendship alliances and stuff. So if you're somebody who is like either a fan of Tori or a not fan of Tori, I still don't know what the name is, you want her on this cast. And I don't think Averey adds too much to this besides they're a mini reunion for Real World Portland. Where's Marlon, everybody? Why is he not on here? We get everybody else but him. Keep Johnny at home. Anyways.
Yeah.
Brittany says Tori is fine, but what are her top moments? She never pushes against the grain and always needs someone to hold her hand. I have to agree. And that's will be interesting to see how she performs in this format where she just won't have complete control over everything. Her alliance is not going to be dominating. And so it will be nice to see if she can actually come out on top when she has a lot of people that she's competing against.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, for the record, my picks would be Amanda for sure. And probably I think for the men, I would go Tony. I like the chaos Tony brings, and I do appreciate Jordan as well. Cory, I love. Leroy, I'm kind of iffy on right now. I love him as a guy. I used to like him more on the show, but I think I'd just go Tony slightly there. But was pretty interesting. Jordan, 42.5%. We've got Leroy in second at 22.5.
Oh, wow.
Then Devin actually at 19.3. And Tony at 9.6. And Cory with only 6%. So, yeah, Drew, your thoughts on Cory and Devin there. They kind of flipped where I think you expected them. I
Yeah.
was surprised to see Devin that high as well. Maybe just him being the most recent winner of the men. I mean, this Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Maybe that's pushed him up a little bit, but not surprised to see Jordan in first, but was definitely surprised to see Cory with only 6% of the votes. I think that's way too low.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised about Devin and Leroy's spot. I thought Leroy would be like third, like not out of everybody's favor, but previous, like in All Stars 4, he really kind of underperformed like a lot. So I don't know. I'm a little surprised by that. But hey, bring on the unpredictability.
Yeah.
I did say 40%, so I got that right. Woo!
Nice.
You were pretty close there. For the women, Cory did come ahead at 37.3%. Now we have a 24.7 exactly for both Jonna and Amanda. So they tied there, which is interesting. But yeah, Tori did kind of push ahead. And then Naya we have at 6.4%, and Averey actually ahead of Naya at 6.
You're being called out, Matthew. Cornochi says, Matthew, fess up. You share this poll with the Vacation Alliance. I do not trust these numbers.
Yeah, the thing is, I think I made the mistake of posting it in a couple challenge Facebook groups, and I think the Facebook crowd might like Tori and Devin a little bit more. If we were just going Twitter and Reddit, I do think maybe Amanda ends up first here, but I did want to spread the love and get the Facebook crowd involved as well.
The real test is going to be when we see favorite era for women and Kaycee has like 56% of the votes. That's when we know something is fishy with the Vacation Alliance stuffing the ballots.
Yeah. But yeah, pretty much what we expected there. Sad to see Amanda not a little bit higher up, but pretty cool that her and Jonna both were at the exact same 151 votes each. I would have liked to see Naya get a bit more love there. Having her below Averey just feels a little weird because Averey, I mean, is nice and all, but she hasn't really done much in her 3-4 seasons. So I think Naya should be a little bit ahead. Give Naya a couple percent of Tori's votes, and Averey can kind of stay at the 6% there.
Yeah, I just don't get that because she really didn't like almost like. I know she made it far in All Stars 4, but like we were talking about with Derek, like Derek like performed. I don't think Averey performed at all or was very memorable on All Stars 4 to warrant being. I thought she was going to get like the same as Aviv with like 2.2% of the votes or something. But wow.
I was more excited for her return than I was for what she did when she came back. So she can allow me to want her to come back again. I don't know if that will happen.
Steep drop in hype from seeing her being on the All Stars forecast rumored and be like, whoa, Averey's back. And then seeing her rumored for this one, you're just like, oh, okay, sure, I guess. Whatever.
Nobody else
Ashley wasn't available.
Exactly.
Well, we're going to get to Ashley right now, actually, because I'm curious to see what percent you think she'll get here. So we have for the men that we wish were on the cast. I'll do that one first before we touch on Ashley. But for the men, we have Dustin, Frank, Hunter, Jay Mitchell, freshly back to the challenge world, Johnny Riley, Marlon, who Drew, you had mentioned a little earlier, Nelson, Preston, and Zach. So not the greatest choices, I'd say, for Era 3 men. But I guess I'll just kind of start off. I think for me personally, I would go Frank Sweeney. I think he's a real fun, chaotic character, really good competitor as well. I haven't seen him in a bit. Obviously, Zach has kind of the name recognition, and there is Nelson, which is a little uncertain right now. But I think I would personally go Frank.
Yeah, I would go Frank or Marlon. I think those are like the top two. I think I would lean Marlon just because like I was so hyped out of X on the Peak, X on the Beach, Peak of Love, and I was just like, oh, is this his return to going on to the challenge? And then nothing surfaced for that. So I think that I would personally like Marlon a little bit more. See that real world Portland reunion. But Frank is also a solid pick out of the list of guys. Out of that, they're my top two, and everybody is a distant last place, in my opinion, of swapping in.
Yeah, Marlon and Frank, I think, is where I would be going. And who's on the list? I'll swap them out with.
The swapping is
Devin.
tough. Yeah, like I would personally do Devin. I just don't see the show actually swapping Devin out.
I think
I
I'm
would
sorry. I'd do Cory.
really.
I think
I would keep
so. I
Cory
know
over
you're.
Leroy.
Pardon?
I would keep Cory over Leroy at this point, personally
I
at
like
least.
Leroy better as a person.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see the Leroy being swapped out, but I think Leroy has a lot of good spots. I'm just going to say Devin. Personally, I don't think of him getting 19.7% of the being the favorite. I don't think people would swap him out, but I personally would. Like, I want less Vacation Alliance members. Like, he was just on season 39 counting stuff in crates. Like, let him have that and let him do whatever he wants to do with his money or whatever, and leave us alone.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I think so. For the women, it's a bit tougher. I mean, obviously, the obvious glaring omission is Ashley Mitchell, but there are some other really strong options here. We have Cook, Devin, Simone, Jasmine, Jemmy, Jenna, Kayla, Latoya, Marie, Nani, of course, another massive name, and Sylvia. So I think Era 3 women, similar to Era 2, there's a lot of women not on the cast that have a really strong case if they wanted to be there. For me personally, I just think Ashley not being there is a bit of a disservice to the fans. A little bit of a minor spoiler alert. The fact that she is going to be on a season that's filmed 2 weeks after this one ended, that just makes things even worse. Because if she was banned temporarily, you're going to lift the ban 2 weeks after season 40. To me, that's just not right. The fans needed her there. She could have had Averey spot. She's clearly willing to do it. So I think for me, it's Ashley, but curious if you guys agree
Ashley.
and what percent you think the fans will say.
Ashley, I think the percentage will be pretty high. Who else is on this list? Like Nani's in there as well, isn't she?
Yeah, really the big ones. I mean, I put a few others that are not going to get a lot of votes. Like all due respect to Cook, Devin, and Jasmine, but really it comes down to Ashley, Jenna, Kayla, and Nani. Those are kind of the four that are, spoiler alert, going to get the majority of the votes.
I'm going to give
there.
Ashley 45%.
I'm gonna give Ashley. Ooh, that's a good percentage, because I was gonna go with Dabu, who said 65%, but that's way too high in my opinion. 40.4% for Ashley, with Jenna as a close second with like 20 some percentage. I think those are the results.
Yeah, and Chantele, we've obviously talked quite a bit about Ashley not being here. Drew, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about her not being here, but then popping up on a future season just a couple weeks later. What do you think about all that?
I actually think that was strategic in the way that, I'm sorry, but like All Stars 5, some people can be very excited for it, for like the possibility of the unpredictability, or people we haven't seen in quite some time. But there's noticeably a drop in like the casuals being excited about who is on that cast compared to like even just All Stars 4 that had like a really jam-packed cast. So I feel like with how many people that they had for season 40, and they're paying the appearance fees of like CT Bananas and all this, that they were like, we need to save some names that people would be excited for All Stars 5. So I think it was strategic for Ashley to be on All Stars 5, to be one of the bigger names and the bigger draws, so people could want to check it out. But I think it's a huge disservice when you're having this like era defining monumental season with some of the biggest names and the biggest, strongest competitors, that you're going to like somebody that has some of the biggest impactful moments of like era 2, era 3 kind of vibe, and has been a multi-time champ, be relegated to like All Stars. But I think from a strategic standpoint, it makes sense. But from a fan standpoint, it just sucks that it's like to have such a big name be missed, and you're kind of like here with some of the fillers. And not to get on Averey, but there's a huge difference between Ashley being here and Averey being here. And it would have been great to have Amanda having Ashley's back, kind of like what I was saying with Nehemiah and Wes. I mean, Amanda being here in era 3 with a lot of the Vacation Alliance, it makes me nervous for her. And I'm rooting for Amanda, so it would have been great to see them kind of like paired up again, especially since you don't know how many seasons Amanda's going to do past this point, but we'll see.
Yeah. Do we agree with Jacob here? Do we think that Nicole should have been on this season?
Nicole who? Ramos?
Nani's cousin, Nicole?
I would take her.
That would have been a trip. Yeah, she'd bring some chaos, but...
The other Nicole, no.
No,
Nicole Granada.
No.
Yeah, I'm a no on both. I think we'll take Ashley over Nicole and Nicole. But let's see the percentage for the men here. Now, surprisingly, Zach 36.6%. So he led the way pretty heavily there. Frank was second at 14.4%. Obviously, Zach has his
more than Frank. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, Nelson 11.8. Hunter just under 10% there. Dustin about 7%, but really it was Zach pretty well ahead. No write-ins there, so really it was kind of just Zach. A bit surprised there, but again,
I did have a feeling Zach would be up there too. But
yeah, again, it could be the Facebook crowd really liking Zach here.
Oh, it's the podcast approval numbers now. I mean, some of those clips, everybody. I mean, almost every week during Battle for a New Champion, it was like a podcast clip going into the Reddit, being like, "Am I liking what Zach is saying? Zach is actually making sense now. Is Zach my new favorite?" It's like, guys, he's just because he's ragging on these new players doesn't mean like he has the best takes or whatever. Like, this is not,
I can't even listen to him.
Ridiculous. But yeah, I could definitely see like the podcast group helping him, or like how many votes did he get? 223. It could be Pierre having his 223 burner accounts going on this one, so you never know.
Brittany says, love him or hate him, Zach is good TV and would excel in a team format.
I don't know about good TV, but
yeah, he's
I only loved him when he was being yelled at during the final.
Yeah, that's really it there. A bit surprised, but Zach gets the spot there. For the women, Ashley 46.7%.
Nice.
So quite high. And second there would be Jenna. So Drew, you were right on that one, but quite a bit behind at 16.8. Nani 13.7. I did actually think Nani would get a little bit more votes just because of the longevity there. Cook actually had 7.2, which was quite surprising. I had thought that Marie had more, but Marie is quite low. Really, the only big vote getters here were Ashley, Jenna, and Nani. Does that come as any surprise to either of you?
No.
Kay has a good point here. Zach definitely has a fan following, though. He also benefits from being a good-looking dude, too. It's true.
Very subjective about the good-looking part. Not my cup of tea.
He's a good-looking guy.
Okay, well, if you like that, you're not going to catch this. You're not going to catch this swamp donkey looking at this guy, giving him a second chance. I will say, Chantele, you did like almost spot on with the percentage for Ashley Mitchell. That's really, really impressive.
What percentage you say?
I don't remember now, like but whatever you said.
45, yeah.
I think.
Real close there. Yeah, so Ashley deserves a spot. Like, put her in for Averey. Zach, he won this vote, but the 5 men we have can stay over Zach. We're fine there. But on to era 4. For the men, we have Horacio, Josh, Kyland, Paulie, and Theo. And for the women, we have Jenny, Kaycee, Michele, Nurys, and Olivia. Let's talk through the men first. And Drew, what are you thinking on the men?
This is tough. This is tough because Horacio is like the good guy. If he was playing back in the day, he would be on the good guys team every single time. And people really like him, even though he doesn't bring that much entertainment. I think Paulie with his like redemption arc in USA 2, I feel like I could see him getting a good amount of votes. Theo was underwhelming in USA in the World Championship, but he still made the final, and he's really, really funny. Man. Kyland also had a really good showing in Battle for a New Champion. I really don't I feel like this could go all over the place. I'm gonna say the fans chose Horacio because of his competitive level and how well he's done the last couple of seasons. I feel like, man, I feel like Theo, for me, I'm hoping he has he's gonna have more camera time than he did in World Championship, just from what we saw in the trailer. So I feel like I'm gonna be looking forward to seeing what Theo's gonna do and more of his personality, because he is really funny. And I feel like his edit was a disservice for World Championship. For the women, I think Nurys is gonna outpace everybody in the vote. And I'm also looking forward to seeing what Nurys will be able to do on this season as well.
Chantele, what do you
I
think
am
here?
like double Nikki here. I think I'm choosing for myself, Theo. I do think that people that are enjoying the new era are going to be picking Horacio, because I feel like the people like this era is like it has Paulie in here with people that was that believe it's the fifth sport and all that stuff. And so I think that they might be going towards being impressed by Horacio and tying his elimination record to Jordan and all that stuff. So I think that Horacio will get the people's vote, but my vote will be for Theo. I know we didn't get to see as much as we wanted to from him in World Championships, but I still believe that he's the funny, likable Brit that I know he has deep down. And so hopefully we'll get to see that. So yeah, I'll say Theo and
Women?
Horacio. Women, Nurys will be a landslide here. I think, funny enough, that Michele will be a close second. So I think Nurys is going to probably get 55% of the votes. And I think that Michele will probably get 30, and then everybody else will disperse.
Okay. Yeah, for me personally, I go the men on Era 4 is, I think, really where the cast falls off a little bit personally. I'm not huge on any of the 5 of them. Horacio, obviously, super inoffensive, really good guy. I'd probably pick him as my personal favorite, but I think there was work that could have been done to improve the cast for the Era 4 men. Women, I go Nurys, but let's see what the fans have to say here. For the men, we have Horacio very, very much ahead at 49%. Theo in second at 20.2, so kind of in line with what the two of you were saying there. Kyland next at 16.2. Paulie at 9.5, and poor Josh only at 5.1% there. Even with a weak field, he can only get 5%. Not entirely surprising. I was a little surprised that Horacio was at 49%. I thought it would be a little closer, but I mean, he is just a really good guy, super athletic, and his relationship with Nurys, I think, helps push him up a little bit.
Yeah, no surprises here.
Yeah. And then for the women, similarly, Nurys quite a bit ahead, 41.4%, but it is a little bit closer after there. We have then Michele at 19.9 in second. So Chantele, you were right about Michele there. And then we have Jenny at 16.4 in third, Kaycee at 15.4, and Olivia in last at just 6.9%. I was surprised by that. I know Olivia gets a lot of hate, but I think she brings a lot more to the show than honestly both Kaycee and Jenny. I'm just not sure where the Kaycee and Jenny fans are coming from. Whereas at least Olivia is messy, and I feel like that would normally generate a little bit more fandom. But for me personally, I would probably have Olivia in the 3 spots. But yeah, fans are real low on Olivia. Any surprises on the women's side for you guys?
I think Kaycee getting 15%, even 15%, I thought she would be in dead last. Again, I thought she would have maybe 6% or something. I don't know if anybody, I could ask probably 100 people on the street if they would be excited for Kaycee, and I don't think anybody would say yes, at least to my face. But then again, Nickelback was like a best-selling artist for like years, and everybody said they hated them. So I guess everybody has their fans. They're just wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Kaycee, the fact that she's won, she's, you know, intimidating-ish, like she has a good elimination record. I think that is what's in the forefront of people's minds here. And I feel like Era 4 fans don't care about entertainment.
Yeah. Era 4, I do tend to agree with a lot of these comments here. It's just a little bit underwhelming. I think the women's side of things is fine. It could be improved, certainly. But yeah, I think Era 4 is just leaning a little bit too much into the competition and not about what really made the challenge the challenge.
Yeah.
So not a big fan of Era 4 in general, but in terms of who's missing here, I think this one is pretty interesting because there are a few big names here. For the men, we have Cory, Ed, Emmanuel, Fessel, Jay, my personal favorite, Johnny Middlebrooks, who obviously is not going to get many votes here, but I love him. Joss, Kyle, Rogan, and Turbo. I think there's a few big names there that really could and maybe should have been on the cast. To me, the two big ones that stand out are Kyle and Turbo. Obviously, Fessel's made a name for himself here as well, a little bit more on the boring and competition only side of things. But where do you guys stand on who should have been here, and who would you pick as your kind of number one to represent that category?
I would take Kyle. You know, we don't expect him to do well, and then he does really well. You know, he's funny. He's British, so he has an accent, which is just makes sometimes his fights just funnier. Yeah, and I enjoy seeing him on the show. He doesn't seem to fall in line necessarily. He'll be an outlier. He'll go against the grain, and I find that interesting, entertaining. And he's not really terrified to go down. He doesn't care if he gets kicked off the show or you know, he's done with the season. Like he's not fearful for his place on the show, and so I kind of like that. So he doesn't seem desperate like some people do to want to stay on the show. He's kind of, I don't know, he's just maybe cooler than that sometimes. So I pick Kyle. He can swap out Josh, sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna say Joss. He was one of the first British guys to come over, along with Kyle and Kaylee and everybody. But I'm gonna pick Joss because he's great eye candy, and we haven't seen him in quite some time. I think the top two vote getters are gonna be Joss and Kyle.
You think Joss is gonna be second, huh?
And yeah, just swap him out with Josh, just because it goes with it. Josh for Joss.
Switch an
Josh
H for an S.
Josh. Yeah,
that's interesting. I'm surprised to hear you say Joss. He wasn't really, I know I put him on the list, obviously. It wasn't someone I personally gave much thought to. I think just for
gonna
me,
be second, personally.
Yeah, I think for me, like the thing about Joss is the Era 4 group already is like very competition heavy. And I think Joss would certainly add to that. But I am kind of looking for someone that's going to add a little bit more to the Era 4 dynamic and maybe be a little bit more strategic or a little bit more of a loose cannon, like Turbo, who is actually who I went with. And I know he's very much a loose cannon. But I think that would just be something that would really disrupt the game. And I do think Turbo, I mean, he won arguably the most difficult final. He's a really good competitor, very crazy. But yeah, I personally went that direction. But we'll move on to the women. For the women, we have Amber B, Big T, Davon, Georgia, Cam, Melissa, Michaela, Mariah, Natalie, Raven, and Zara. So I think, like I mentioned, I think the women for the most part on Era 4 are pretty strong. I personally went with Amber B. I think she's someone that would kind of create a different dynamic there. Obviously, she has a lot of haters, but a few good choices there. Anyone stand out to you guys for Era 4 women?
A lot.
Yeah, I think my top two that I would love to have seen on this cast was Melissa, just add more British people, and as well as Devon would have been really awesome to have seen in this era. One of the first Big Brother players from Final Reckoning. So yeah, I think those two women would be my pick. I could not tell you who the audience would pick. I
I
could
think-
not
Yeah, this
tell
one's
you
tough.
one bit. Maybe Georgia, yeah.
I think that I am gonna go with Michaela.
That's a good one.
I feel like I always want to see more. Like I want to see her on our screens. Like she is entertaining, I find, and she is physically dominant, and I just enjoy watching her on my TV. So I wouldn't choose Michaela. I think the audience is gonna go with Michaela. But who's second? Yeah, probably Melissa will be second in my books, and then maybe Cam. That's my thoughts, and they can switch out.
Oh, you know what?
Olivia?
Sorry,
Yeah.
my apologies. I actually did not pick Amber B. I picked Cam. So yeah, I don't know if Cam was physically able to participate in this when she gave birth, but again, I mean, a lot of these people are not going to be there anyways, or wouldn't be there. So I did go Cam with Amber as actually a close second. But we'll check out the fan vote here. For the men, pretty overwhelming. Kyle, 44%.
Wow.
With Ed actually in second, which is pretty surprising at 12% there. I know he's recent and he's kind of like a fun, charming guy, but was a little surprised by that. We have Rogan at 9.4%, Joss just behind at 9.3%, and Turbo at 7%. But really, Kyle ate up a large number of votes here.
Yeah, I mean, even though you said the list, I forgot about Ed, but I'm not an Ed fan. He was okay his first season, and then I didn't enjoy him then when he came back. So I'm good with my Ed intake.
Yeah, I'm good on Ed as well. For the women, much closer. A few people, and there was a few names I didn't even read off because I didn't get many votes, but very close here. We have Cam at 21.3, Amber at 16.9, George at 13.2, Devon at 10.7, and then a few others. Zara 5.4. We had Big T at 5.5. So
Michele, did
a
you even get
number of
any
women got
numbers?
the votes there.
What did Michele get?
Michaela got 4.4%, which honestly
lower
not
than I
bad
thought.
considering she was on one episode of MTV and
That's true.
it's the US version. But yeah, really we're looking there at Cam, Amber, and Georgia and Devon, which I would not have minded to see any of those four in, and they can take Kaycee's spot.
Dabu, I have to agree with you. After Love Island, All Stars don't ever need Georgia on TV again. Hard pass. I agree. It was really insufferable. So that's why I made my face when I heard it. I was like,
So the next few questions I have here, they're much like quicker. We can just kind of run through a lot of them. So firstly, what era are you rooting for? And what era do you think the fans are rooting for? Really simple there. And then the second question, which is kind of tied to that, which era do you think will win if they stick to teams throughout the whole season?
I mean, I have to be rooting for era 1. I know most of the people the best on that era. I want them to make these youngins, show them some respect. So I want to see them win. And I think though that the audience is probably going to be rooting for era 3. I think it was. I feel like they have is it 3 that I want? Yeah, I think it's era 3. I think, well, pause on that one. Go to Angel Cake and let me double think this.
I'm gonna say people are rooting for Era 1. I'm in the boat where I don't know if I'm actually rooting for eras because I don't think that it's gonna stay in era teams and stuff. So for me, it's like football for me. I have one team that I grew up next to, so that's what I root for. But then I root for a whole bunch of different players from all different teams, and I don't really have like a second favorite team or whatever. I just want to see people do well. But I started watching the show in Era 3 or no, Era 2. Yeah, Era 2. Back end of Era 2. Dirty 30 was my first season. And then I watched from then on and went backwards and stuff. So I guess I think if the teams stick together, I think Era 3 has the best shot of winning. I think they have the most when it comes to like brain power, connections, as well as some of the most like if they can have one person be the captain or two people be the captains of that team, if they were to stick together, I think they're like in that sweet spot where they've played the game. They have enough people that have enough experience, but they don't have like, they're not rickety or like need some like momentum and stuff. I feel like they would be able to win if they were all together. And I think they have the most consistency amongst like their skill level, where I think like in Era 2, you can see like there's a dip in the quality of the men on that side, especially compared to the women on their team. The Era 4 is a little bit all over the place. You kind of don't know what their potential could be. I just think that Era 3 is a little bit more like more consistent. So yeah.
Chantele, if they stick to teams, who do you think will come out on top here? And again, like, yeah, they probably won't stick to teams the whole time, but if they do, who do you have?
So yeah, I started saying Era 3 and then I was second guessing myself, but then looking back at everybody else, I do think that Era 3 is the most well-rounded in the sense, just like Drew is saying here, they've played quite a few seasons. And so they have the connections, but then they have like the understanding how the strategy of the games go. And then also they're still youthful. I'm not gonna say not rickety.
I misspoke. All right. I didn't mean to.
Yeah,
I think it's Era 3, yeah.
Yeah, this one, the vote was pretty interesting. So the era they're rooting for, 44% are rooting for Era 1.
Good.
32.8 for Era 2. So pretty close. Era 3, 17.6. And Era 4, they have 5.6% of people root for them. So that was pretty interesting. 1 and 2, very close. It's kind of interchangeable. Era 1, a little bit ahead, but not too significant. Now, which era do people think will win is very different. It's pretty close between Era 2 and 3.
Wow.
So Era 2 actually slightly ahead of Era 3 now. Era 3 was ahead for most of the last few days, but 38.8 to 38%. So basically dead even there. And then Era 1 at 16.1. Era 4 a little bit up from what people want, but still the lowest at 7.1%.
It probably went up just for the youth factor, right?
Yeah, I think so. I tend to agree that I think Era 2 is very underrated. Obviously the women are completely stacked, and I think the thing about the men there, it's the men are weaker, but I feel like a lot of them will be disposable. Where if they have to, I wouldn't be shocked if Bananas and some of these women don't mind losing to get some of these men out. Unfortunately, but I wouldn't be shocked if we lose a few of those Era 2 men early, and then the stronger men and some of the women just kind of ride towards the end if they do stick to teams for a duration there. But I do think 2 and 3 are quite strong. Era 1, I would love to see them win. I do think it'll be a bit of an uphill battle, though.
Yeah, I don't know if they got it in them, but I'm rooting for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, similarly now, in the event it doesn't stick in teams, I asked the audience if it becomes a solo game, which one man and one woman will win? And I will say the votes for the men were extremely two-sided, I'll say. Two people here, two of the men got almost 90% of the votes.
Wow.
And the women were very spread out. So yeah, I mean, it should be pretty easy to tell which two men got those votes, but very, very crazy numbers there. And then the women, again, very spread out there. But curious, who do you guys think will win if they become individual?
I mean, if you would have said 3 men got the top 90% of votes, I would have been like, oh, I can name the 3 guys. But knowing that it's only 2, I'm like, that's interesting to me because the top 3,
You know
I
what?
would
Sorry,
almost.
you know what, Drew? Sorry, 3 men did get 90%, but
Yes.
2 of those 3 men got 82%. So
Holy.
yeah, the one man to make up the 90 only got 8% there.
Whoever has the 8%, I'm going to be shocked by, because I think the top 3 has to be CT, Johnny Bananas, and Jordan would be my top 3. When in doubt, you choose those guys. They win. I think you mentioned it earlier that they win what, the last 5 or 6 seasons. Like, they've just been on a winning streak for the longest time. So I mean, I think it's those beat those 3. I couldn't pick who would be the 2 that got 82%. I guess I would go with, I have no idea. I actually have no clue. For the women, I don't know why it would be so all over the place, in my opinion, because I feel like Cara and Laurel have to be up at the top. After that, I think it would be kind of a mismatch of who I would expect it to be. I mean, I think I would expect Rachel to do well, but she didn't have that great of a showing on.
It'll be
All-Star
Tori.
4.
You know it's gonna be Tori.
Oh, that's
It's
true.
gonna be Tori.
I'll be for real. I forgot about Tori.
There is also Jenny West, is obviously physically
Yeah.
super strong. Kaycee
Solid.
is a physical competitor, so
No.
I think Jenny West is someone that is
Yeah.
like a force to be reckoned with. I think
You're
she's
right.
pretty good with puzzles and stuff too. So obviously doesn't have the same connections, but yeah. So this one's super interesting. So Jordan, 52.6%.
Wow.
CT, 30%. And then we got Bananas here at 6.6%.
Wow.
Under 8%, actually. Then we have a few
Holy.
people with a handful of votes, but Horacio, 4%. He's the next one there. And then everyone else is Darrell, 1%. Derek, 1%. Devin, Devin, 1%. A few like 0.2%. But
Wow.
really, this one, it's CT and Jordan consisting of 82% of the votes here.
I mean, that's not too shocking, but I mean, Bananas getting 6%. I mean, wow. That's I mean, I don't doubt these, because it's like Jordan was on season 30 with a lot of these same competitors of like Derek, CT, Johnny Bananas, and he went on to win that season, and he hasn't had a dad bod era. He's still relatively younger than Bananas, and CT. Bananas has some stuff going on outside the show and talking to so many 21-year-old beautiful models on his podcast, and he has that to worry about. So I mean, it's not surprising. It's just like surprising enough that it was like 6%. I thought it would be closer, like, I don't know, like 40 30 20 kind of vibe, you know. That's 90%. So yeah, 40 30 20. I thought it would be closer.
Is very surprising for Bananas.
Yeah.
And then again, for the women, much closer. Cara was ahead at 34.8%. And Drew, you were right. Laurel second, 22.4%. But obviously much more spread out here. We have Jenny at 12%, Rachel
Solid.
at 8.4%, Emily, who we didn't mention, is at 7.1%. Kaycee, 4.4%, Tori, 5.3%. So handful of women got votes there. Yeah, but really it came down to kind of Laurel and Cara, 58% of the votes between the two. And I think they're definitely the front runners, but I wouldn't be shocked if a Tori or Jenny won either.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Probably
Now
not.
the next question I asked, really simple, easy one here. It's just yes or no. If one of Bananas, CT, or Jordan wins, are they automatically the GOAT?
Man. Again, this is like the Mount Rushmore question.
Mhm.
I think it depends on who wins, because it's like if it's Bananas who wins in this, I would say instantly yes. I think if CT wins, I think you can there brings up a conversation where it's like he could easily nudge out Bananas in that conversation. Because right now I think it's 5-7. It's a little bit like, okay, well, Banana still has 2 wins, but if CT wins a season like this and is 1 win discretion between the two, I think it's like, okay, now it's like, okay, CT can have a little bit more of a pool in the GOAT conversation. Jordan, I still think this would
Needs a
be
few more seasons, I think.
I think so too. I think with Jordan, he's in like the talks of like the Mount Rushmore thing, but I just don't think I would hand over the GOAT status on this win in particular. I mean, it would only be his 4th on the flagship show, 5th if you're counting World Championship, and I just think like he's a strong competitor, but I don't know if I would instantly put him ahead of Johnny's wins or CT's wins or everything that those two have been through. And right now, I think it's a 2-dog race between Bananas and CT, and I don't see anybody hopping over them if they win this season, in my opinion.
I agree, and just to add with the Jordan of it all, he okay, yes, he's a great, amazing competitor. Yes, we can rely on him to probably getting to the end and winning because of his physical abilities. But I guess what Bananas and CT have over him is that they are willing to strategize and they're willing to maybe stir the pot, or they're thinking about ways to get to the end. And Jordan doesn't usually want to play the strategic side of things. He wants his physical ability to speak for itself. He would be the type of person that'd be willing to throw himself in there, as we've seen with the skulls, to make a point. And yes, that was entertaining. It was great in the moment, but I just don't know if he has the strategic aptitude to be able to assume that title. I think he just needs to be a little more well-rounded, personally.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty even in terms of the fan vote here. 58.9% said yes. If any of the 3 win, they'll be the GOATs. 1.1% said no. So I tend to agree with the two of you as well. I think not necessarily. I think if it's Bananas or CT, probably. I think Jordan, this would certainly help him in his path to getting there, but probably needs to put a little bit more time in. So yeah, pretty even there. But the next couple questions I had asked these were just kind of short answer ones. We're not going to like go through all the answers here, but I'm more curious to hear your opinions on these ones. So first, what is the best season of the challenge of all time? And I will just say, I'll touch on it real briefly, but the kind of big ones that were mentioned here were Rivals, Free Agents, The Duel, and Dirty 30 actually surprisingly got a large number of votes, which I'm not the biggest Dirty 30 fan, but
Wow.
there was a nice amount of Dirty 30 love there.
Wow. I have like a nostalgia factor for Dirty 30 since that was like the first season I got me hooked on the challenge, and then Invasion of the Champs, with all of its flaws, was the first full season I watched of the challenge. So those will hold special places in my heart, but I would not call them my favorites. I think Rivals is like my favorite. That cast is iconic. There was a lot building up to that moment. And then speaking strictly through Rivals pairings, that was like the best. Whereas Rivals 2 had some like Twitter beefs as some of the pairing like stuff, and the same thing with like Rivals 3. So I just think out of all the Rivals, that one is the peak for me. what the challenge was like leading into forever. So I think 21 and then 25 is like close.
Yeah, those were the
I
top
love them
two.
all.
And another one, Rivals 2 did get 48 votes, which was about a decent percentage there. Not everyone filled this question out, but Rivals 1 was the most at 62 votes. And then second was Free Agents at 55. So kind of right in line with your top two there, Drew. Honestly, an underrated favorite season of mine, probably not my number one, but it's up there, is Invasion of the Champions. I am a big Invasion fan. The format's like left a bit to be desired, but the eliminations, the drama that season were next level. I loved the contenders on that season. Obviously, I wish the kind of elimination structure was a little bit different and the daily structure, but that it only had a few votes, but that was one that I considered. But ultimately, I think Rivals is kind of where I land as well. How about
I
you,
mean, I'm
Chantele?
obsessed with Rivals for
Yeah.
sure. I also have a soft spot for Fresh Meat too. I like that it was, I love a split house. It was pretty much a split house, with against Wes and Evelyn, and I enjoyed watching that season, and I also think for the nostalgia factor with having some of the biggest players nowadays, like that was their origin season. So I'm gonna have to throw in the little Fresh Meat too in there as well. I agree with all the points that you guys are baiting for the other seasons that are favorites. I'm pretty nostalgic for the older seasons, like older than 30, just because I guess they were just so much more impactful then. Like I was really hooked, and the casting was amazing, and I just had watched their season of Road Rules or Real World. You know what I mean? Like I was just more entrenched in these people's stories and really excited to see them come onto the show. So all the earlier seasons, I was salivating while watching them. So they're all have a great place in my heart.
Yeah, for sure. Now another one similarly. What is your favorite elimination matchup of all time? I will say this one was a little bit more lopsided. Really, everyone voted for. There was a few random votes here and there, but the big three were the banana backpack, Joss versus Derek, and Wes versus Derek. Those got the majority of the votes. Obviously, I mean, everyone's talked about those three quite a bit. Are there any other eliminations that you can think of that stand out as kind of all timers?
Yeah, Cara versus Naya in the Looper. I think that was like impactful for multiple reasons. But I think that one's really, really solid for sure.
Don't remember. I don't remember. I remember the backpack, of course. Any other ones? I mean, people probably are gonna. Is this just with the men?
No, men and women. A lot of the answers ended up being men. I mean, we have Jordan versus Josh, which obviously was fun. Here's Cara versus Naya. Zach and CJ in a hall brawl.
That was a good one.
That was Battle of
a lot of women. Sylvia, Melissa here just kind of came up. That was a good one.
That was a good one.
Kyle, Theo. But yeah, really a Jenna versus Tori. That one was pretty good.
That was with the wheelbarrow.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tori versus Jenny in the hall brawl.
Oh yeah,
that's what I was first thinking of when I asked if women were on that.
But just for like the shock factor of like, I mean, Tori is a strong player, but I think going into that hall brawl, everybody was like, "Oh, this is gonna be the Terminator," and Tori somehow comes out winning. I thought that was solid.
Yeah, here's one. Kim and Susie. I guess that's a kind of under the radar one. But yeah, really a lot of Joss, Derek, Wes, Derek. And those everyone's talked through those enough. But we did mention rivalries a little bit before with the rivals theme there. What would you say is the best rivalry in challenge history? Again, this one was pretty much down to a few people. But what would you say is your favorite rivalry?
I think like West versus anybody, but it's like you could swap in Kenny and Bananas being like the top two, like West versus them. I think Bananas took over that rivalry that Kenny and West started with each other, and so that's why I think I would throw Kenny in there first. I think that's a solid one. I think that's what I would go with.
I mean,
Laurel,
Carver's.
sure.
I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's definitely it means that it's a challenge. You know what I mean? Like Cara versus Laurel is part of the lore of the challenge, and so it's definitely epic in that sense. I don't know if I'm enjoying that they haven't been able to get over it or work through it, but it's definitely an epic rivalry.
Yeah, the overwhelming favorites here were 180 votes for Bananas and Wes, 108 votes for Laurel and Cara, and then 47 votes for Kenny and Wes. Those were really the three big vote getters. Everything else was kind of scattered. We had a bunch of Amanda Tori, Amanda Camilla. Really funny one.
I'm looking forward to maybe Amanda Michele. That might be.
Yeah, that didn't get any votes, but that is a blossoming one for sure. A few Bananas, Devin. We had CT Bananas, West CT, Banana Sarah, of course. Amanda Jenna, Amanda Zach. Amanda has a bunch of different people, which is quite fun. And then Evelyn versus the JEK Alliance, which is one I love. And then a really funny one was CT versus Terrell Owens, which gave me a bit of a chuckle. It was a pretty good rivalry, short lived, but yeah, that one was good. Now, another one I had asked was, what rivalry for season 40 are you most excited for? And for this one, I did give some options. We have Brad and Paulie, Cara and Laurel, of course, Cara and Tori, Cara and Bananas, Kellyanne and Jonna, Laurel Michele, Michele, Amanda Tori, Cory versus Tony, Nurys and Olivia, and Paulie and Theo. Do any of those kind of stand out as something you're excited to see kind of move forward on 40?
You said one, and then I was like, yeah, that one, and then I forgot which one it was.
I'm gonna say
Kellyanne, Jonna.
Laurel and Cara. I think it just reignited after All Stars 4, and I think it's big. I think it's them coming 1 and 2, them having such a tumultuous back and forth on All Stars 4 that coming into this season, I think people would be more like intrigued to see what's gonna actually come of it. So
it was oh my god, did I forget again?
Amanda Michele. Was it Amanda Michele?
It's actually Tori versus Cara. I need to see what's going on there, right? Because rumor has it the reason why Cara hasn't been back on is because production is favoring Tori and doesn't think that Tori is capable of winning a season with Cara on it. So I want to see if that is true. I want to see the beefing. And so I want to see if that rivalry is still there and how it kind of plays out. I'm definitely interested in all the other ones. I would be more interested in Nurys and Olivia just because, you know, Olivia really did Nurys dirty. But it looks like they got over it. So I'm like, not excited.
And the results are pretty interesting here. It's kind of in line with what both of you are saying. The kind of top vote getters, obviously Cara, Laurel, like everyone wants to see what's going to happen there. So yeah, to Drew's point, 38%. Cara and Tori is kind of tied in second here, 10.4. Cara Bananas at 10.5. Then we have Nurys and Olivia at 9.5. So the ones we really were talking about there. Amanda Tori, Amanda Michele, 5.4 and 5.8. And there's Laurel Michele. But those are the big ones. Cara, Laurel, I mean, that's always going to be a thing. It seems like things have definitely gotten a lot worse just based off of some social media and everything. So yeah, kind of excited to see what happens there. Hopefully it doesn't get too dark, but with them, you never really know. And sometimes Laurel can hit you with some low blows. But yeah, the next one's kind of fun. Now this one really surprised me. So it's the male and female you'd least want to see in a hall brawl in their prime. So for the men, the options I put were CT, Cory, Danny McRae, a literal football player, Darrell, Fessel, and Mark Long. And for the women, I said Aneesa, Cara, Emily, Jenny, Kaycee, Laurel, and Tori. Now, for me personally, I would not want to go against Danny McRae or Laurel. Those would kind of be the scariest for me. But
I think
the
scariest for
fans,
me would be CT
Mhm.
because I agree with Danny. Obviously, football player terrifying, but CT in his prime had crazy. He's had a bit of crazy in him. Like he was gonna bite people's head off, and like he's scarier. I think with the scrappiness and the streetness of him back in the day. So I definitely mean CT would be terrifying. Out of the women, probably Laurel for that same like don't give an F factor and we'll just run right through you. So yeah, CT and Laurel is where I'd go here.
I think I would go CT and Jenny because Jenny lost once before and she will not lose again,
I thought
in my opinion. So yeah, I think CT and Jenny for me personally.
yeah, so CT like overwhelming favorite, which I was honestly surprised about just because obviously Danny is a football player, but I get the point, and then also people are more familiar with CT, of course. But 66.8%, I thought was a little too high. Then Danny and Fessel both right around 12%. For the women, a little bit closer. Laurel 38.2, Jenny in second at 15.8, Nisa in third at 12.7, and Emily at 10.5. So a little bit more spread out there. Now the next question is pretty interesting. I know we're over 2 hours now, so I'll go through these ones a lot quicker. I don't want to keep you guys too long, but who from the season 40 cast will not return for another season after season 40? And just kind of like if there's a few names, you can just spitball them, and then we can just take a look at the results there.
That's a good one. Gosh. I feel like there's gonna be a good amount of people that are not gonna come back. To be fair. I mean,
and for this one, I allowed the people answering to choose as many options as they want. So it wasn't just like one person. It is very spread out. But yeah, I agree. I think this might be the end of the road for a handful of people here.
Yeah, this could be the final hurrah. Like Horacio has kind of mentioned that this could be his final go at it. Averey, I could see if she doesn't do very well. Yeah, I hate to agree with Dabu here, but I kind of get the vibe like some of these era 2 guys. I mean, I think that they could get a Bon Voyage after this season. Like, I hate to say it, but like, I want to see more Brandon, but he didn't do so well in All Stars 4. Then he's on this season. I feel like, I don't know. It took so long to get him here, and if he doesn't do well here, then it's not going to be great. So I could see like Brandon, maybe Orion, not doing so well.
I feel like we're still gonna see them, but yeah,
I don't know.
You don't think you're gonna see Ryan?
Emily, maybe even Brad could be
I thought Brad maybe that.
I think Mark. Like, there's a solid of Mark not wanting to do the show after 40. I maybe do like one more All-Star season or just like chill out with Scott and doing Challenge Mania live events for the rest of his life. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, Mark is right at the top there. Aviv and Mark at 39 and 38% respectively. Katie at 34%, 35%. We have Jodi at 26. Now, what I thought was the most interesting was who was at the lowest percent. So who do the fans think will definitely be back? Bananas, only 1.7% think this will be his last season. Cara Maria, 1.2%. Cory and Devin, only 0.5% think this is the end for them. Tori, only one person voted this will be Tori's last season. And I think that might have been just a Tori hater that's hoping she's gone because I think Tori's definitely coming back. But But yeah, some interesting stuff here. Horacio 17.6%, Emily 17.1. And then next two questions are bananas related only. Will any contestant ever match Bananas 7 wins? We don't know how long the challenge will last, but will anyone get to 7 besides Johnny Bananas?
I actually don't think so. I think that they might preserve that, like, and just not cast people to be able to meet that before they go off air. I think, and he might even win another one within the
Yeah.
meantime.
I was gonna
So
say maybe like if like I feel like he's gonna go for like ever, so he's not gonna like stop until the challenge like is off the air or something, and even then I think he'd go on All Stars. But I feel like with him getting like so many friends, he could make the final, and if he's in the final, he has a good shot of winning, based off his stats. So I feel like no, but just for the sole fact that I feel like he could win like 1 or 2 more. And then I feel like it's close to out of reach, but like people are saying CT and Jordan possibly.
I still don't
And
know if they'll come back enough times to be able to do it.
yeah, I feel like CT could be like closer to like wanting to do other stuff. And Jordan maybe, but he's also doing racing and stuff. So I don't know how many times he's going to be like coming back. And I just think Bananas is always going to come back. So I'm going to say no, and I'm going to say that he's going to end his run at 9 wins.
Really? Wow.
Overall.
Okay. Now, at the time of Kenny and Evan being banned from the show, Bananas had 3 wins. If they never got banned, how many wins would Bananas have today? Options are either 3, so he would never win another, which is unlikely. 4 to 6, he would still have 7, or he would have 8 to 10, and he would have won more. So, what do you guys think? If those two were still on the show, we don't know how long they would have done the show for. They could very well still be there today. Obviously, they look like they're in good shape, but how many wins would Bananas have if those two never got banned?
And what was the lowest option?
That he would only have 3. He would have never won another one,
Okay,
which I think is not
he
realistic.
might win maybe 2 more after that. So he'd be at 5.
I think he would have. I think Bananas still would have gotten 7. I think there was signs that Evan wasn't really fully into it anymore, and that's why he wanted to sacrifice himself in Rivals because he wanted to get out of there. And I think Kenny showed some dip in his performance, and I'm gonna say that Johnny was hitting his stride while Evan and Kenny were kind of like dipping below their normal run. They may have made more finals because that's what Kenny did in his run, but I think Bananas would have still gotten it. I think it would have been just the Vacation Alliance, just even bigger if they never would have gotten banned or did whatever they did to get banned. That I think that it would have just been easier going for Bananas just to make more finals and be able to surpass them, I feel. So I still think nothing would have changed.
Nikki here is saying that she doesn't think that Bananas would have been cast that much.
False.
Yeah, I disagree. He might not have been on every season. They might have rotated a little bit, but I personally think he'd probably still be in that like 6-7 range. Maybe he'd have one less championship, but I do think ultimately, I mean, he was still partnered with Camilla, they were a great team. They still would have been great then. Maybe Evan or Kenny like steals a win from him, but I think probably 6-7 still. And the fans say that in terms of Bananas, anyone catching Bananas wins, pretty 50-50. 56% say no, 44% say yes. Which, yeah, I think it's going to be tough. I don't know if CT has 2 more wins in him. Jordan would need 3 more wins. So that I think is going to be tough to do. And then anyone else is going to have to win like crazy. That's starting at a bigger deficit. So I tend to think no. Now, in terms of the Bananas having the amount of wins he'd have, most people did say 4 to 6, 65%. 24% say still 7. And then just a small amount say that he would never have won or he would have won more if they were there. which I think makes sense. Either like that 4 to 7 range seems about right. Probably more that 5 to 7 range.
Yeah,
Okay,
the way
last.
the way I viewed
Sorry.
Kenny is very similar to how I viewed Derek, because Kenny won in mainly team seasons, and then when he was in a paired up with Wes, I mean, they couldn't surpass Johnny and Tyler. So to me, I kind of view Evan as like, yeah, he made it to a lot of finals. He just couldn't dot the I's on a lot of those finals, because I think he made it to what, 7 straight finals, 8 finals overall, and he only got 3 wins. So I feel like the stats kind of don't line up with the performance of what could have been.
Good
So
point.
that's what I'm just saying, guys.
Stat guy. You're just the stat guy.
Yeah.
Drew, I know that you need to maybe peace out. How are you feeling?
How many more questions do we have?
I have 4 more
20.
questions.
Oh, 4.
If we can get through these in like a handful of minutes, I'm cool with staying.
Okay. Yeah. I'll go through them quick. We don't need to. We can just skim through the results for some of them too. Okay. This one really quick. Will Landon, Evelyn, or Coral ever return to the challenge, flagship or spinoff? The options are Landon only, Evelyn only, Coral only, or none will ever come back.
If I don't think anyone's ever going to come back. I was going to say
No.
if the price is right, but at this point, I think season 40 would have been the season that any of them would have come back for, and they would have had the money to potentially maybe bring them on. And the fact that neither of them are entering this season, I don't think that they are going to come on another one.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. If it was either Landon or Evelyn, this would have been the season to have roped them back in. Now, if Coral would have done one of the earlier All-Star seasons up to this point, I think when they were casting more older / not as recent cast members, I think that would have been more of when we would have saw Coral back. But now that kind of ship has sailed, I think it's no to all 3. Yeah.
Yeah, and the audience agrees. 67% say no to all 3. Landon is the one that the audience thinks is most likely to come back. I think he has said on a handful of occasions that he would be open to the conversation, but it's all about money for him. And if they're not offering the money, he's not going to come. So maybe season 50, they're willing to offer a little more. I tend to doubt it, but yeah, for the most part, everyone says no there. Now, next question, favorite challenge couple of all time. Spoiler alert, CT and DM are going to run away with this one.
Yeah, I
mean, the other
they,
options.
Facts.
Yeah, what percent do you think CT and DM took here? The other major couples, Leroy Cam, Horacio Nurys, Paulie Cara, Jordan Tori, Zach Jenna, Nani Kaycee, a few others there. But what percent would you say CT and DM get?
I'm going to say 89%.
I was going to say like 90 something percent, but then you said Leroy and Cam, and I feel like they're going to get like 25%. So I'm going to say 70% is CT and DM, which I know is low, but I'm going to say Cam and Leroy came in second place, and everybody else is a muddled mess.
Yeah, so you are right, but it is lower on both. About 59% for CT and DM, 16% for Leroy and Cam. Horacio and Nurys got 5.4, Jordan Tori 5.7, and then everyone else just got between 0 and 2%. A few write-ins here. Brad and Brittany was pretty funny. Someone put Alyssa Snyder and Tyler Crispin, which I don't know if they were serious or they're just a big USA fan. But come on, just vote for DM and CT there. Okay, next one. We won't go through all the answers here because this was a write-in only one. But who from another reality show would you most want to see make their challenge debut on season 41? Anyone that kind of jumps to mind?
I know she doesn't want us to do reality TV anymore, but Serena from Love Island USA, I'm obsessed with her, and I feel like she would be able to dominate. If you saw her heart rate challenge performance, she's flexible, twerking in the splits over her guy's face is pretty impressive. They had to do some hurdles in one of the little Love Island kind of games type challenge that they did, and she was a gymnast. So I just would want to see her perform. She calls people out. She stands on business all the time. I think that she would be a really fun addition to the challenge.
Yeah. Drew, anyone that comes to mind?
I'm gonna say no. I can't think of anybody that comes to mind, really.
To be honest, the most common answer for this one was no. So yeah, I was reading through them. I put it on a separate spreadsheet there. A lot of no, a lot of just nobody, a lot of Love Island, a lot of Jonathan from Survivor and Dee from Survivor, a few Qs, but yeah, really Love Island heavy. Then a few random ones. A lot of people said they should start casting from The Bachelor, which I actually do agree with. I think The Bachelor could be fun. Everyone's obviously in great shape. And I think they bring like a level of messiness with hookups, which the challenge is lacking a bit. But yeah, it was really a lot of just keep casting from the real world. We don't want CBS, all that.
Peacock, though, we'll take.
Yeah, the next two questions I think are really interesting. And we'll just go quickly through them as well. But how would you rank the cast from 1 to 10 of season 40 overall, with 1 being not what I wanted at all, and 10 being this is the best cast ever assembled?
Wait, say that one more time.
So just 1 to 10, how would you rank it? 1 being this is not a good cast at all, 10 being this is the best cast ever.
I'm gonna give it a strong 7.
I was gonna say, like, I think it is one of the best casts assembled. Like, it's much better than like Dirty 30, which was a huge milestone. There's some spots that I think could have been better. So I want to say 8 personally, but given the parameters of is this the best cast ever assembled, I would say yes. So I would say 10 practicality, but 8 personally.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's pretty much in line with the audience picks here. 35% said 8, 31% said 9, 10 was at 13.7%, and 7, 12.6. So everyone is pretty high on the cast. Basically nobody was lower. Probably like 7-8% combined under at 6 or under. But 8-9 is the kind of big one there. Now this one is definitely a little different, but how do you feel about the direction of the show post season 40? With 1 being not confident that we get to season 50, and 10 being everything is perfect.
I'm gonna give that I'm toying between 2. I feel like I'm on the round table right now.
I'll be for real. I'm gonna say 3. With the whole merger and Skydance thing, and just not having another season kind of in the works right now at the moment, like not looking at All Stars 5, which has already been rumored, but just like the Skydance stuff, the merger. There's a new challenge season in Sweden that isn't done by Jonathan or the Murray's. Like that being the first one not under that like crew and stuff. It makes me just like wonder what is the next level. I think we could get a couple more seasons of the flagship, but I don't even know what the future looks like very far into the future. So I'm gonna say 3, maybe borderline 2 kind of vibe.
I'm splitting the difference between you and Nikki here. I was toying between 2 and 3, but I think I'm gonna settle in on the 2. They don't seem to listen to us necessarily, and I just think that they're going to realize that what they want to have happen is not going to work. I don't really like what they're doing with All Stars 5. And if that's the direction that they are going in to hopefully keep the longevity of the show, I do not believe it's the right direction. And so I just don't have any faith in their producers to know what we want anymore. They kind of drop the ball off.
I'm with you guys. I'm maybe a little higher. The audience is very mixed here, though. It's really pretty widely dispersed across all numbers. very few people at a 9 or a 10. Also, very few people at a 2, but I do think there's more people at a 1, and then a 3, of course. So the kind of hotspot, it is kind of hovering around that 5 range. So I think there is maybe a little bit more optimism. I'm nervous for sure, especially if a lot of these people are going to call it quits and hang up the cleats after 40 or in the next couple of years. I don't know how much confidence I have in another like 5-6 years of this, but yeah, it's pretty mixed there. Now, kind of last, I'm going to skip one. And one of the questions I asked was, what's your ideal format for determining who goes into eliminations? Basically, everyone said loser goes in, winner
Yeah.
picks the
Yeah.
opponent. So
Yeah.
I think most people agree on that. Pretty
100%.
straightforward. I honestly just asked that one because I wanted to see if I was like delusional and thinking that was the obvious choice. But luckily, everyone basically said it. But one question I asked was, what do you watch the challenge for? The options were competition, politics, drama, romance. You could choose as many as you want, or you could put other and then add something else there. Is there anything in particular? What draws you most to the challenge of those options?
I like drama and strategy. So
I'm gonna have to leave off of this question. I think it's all of it. I mean, the challenge is like a mixture of all these things, but I think what ultimately like really hooked me into the challenge is the storylines
it's
of
true.
these players. Like this is like one of the only shows where you can follow a player for multiple seasons. I mean, Survivor has returning seasons, but they can be few and far between. And sometimes when they do it too often, it gets really gimmicky. And I think having the aspect of like and honestly, when I started watching it, it felt like the Real World Road Rules, but I didn't even know those two shows because I didn't grow up watching those two shows. But it was a huge like fusion of the Real World House, the drama and the fights and everything mixed with these incredible like games that they would do, adding into like competition reality TV show that I grew up watching, like Big Brother and Survivor with my family. And then coming along the challenge, it was like, oh, this is something that like I found and that I discovered on my own. And I think it's like a little piece of me kind of vibe. And so to me, I think the storylines was a huge one because I just remember like going backwards watching from 30, 29, 28, 27 and like being able to follow like the lineage of like, oh, Cory came in on 27 and you can follow him up to this point. Johnny came in this season. You can follow him all the way up to seeing how the evolutions and everything. So to me, I think that's what really clicked for me, where it's like, oh, this is, I can just follow certain players and see them come on to multiple seasons and do multiple formats and kind of root for them. But I would say all the above, but I think the storylines and the returning players where it's like, okay, cool. I can, it's not like you're getting a mixed bag of a cast of like players that you're like, I hope they're cool. Like the last season, I like the last season players. This time it's like, oh, I like majority of these people. I hope they can do better kind of vibe. But
Yeah,
that's my
love it.
long thing.
Well, thanks, Drew. I know you need to head out. So, I mean, it was amazing having you here to discuss this questionnaire. I'll finish answering my question after, but let the people know where they can find you, what you're up to, what they can expect from you this season.
Yeah, over on Angel Cake Entertainment, putting out a lot of challenge videos, challenge contents, reviews, recaps. Also on patreon.com/angelcakevids, we'll be doing exit interviews, hopefully more interviews, as well as other premium exclusive content that I can't put on YouTube because it'll get instantly demonetized and hidden off the platform. So if you want to catch more of it, you can see me on there, but I'm planning on putting up a ton of content from now until the end of the year. Thankfully, this incredible season, hopefully is incredible, is going to be coming out here soon. And hopefully it'll be inspiring for a lot of great content to come as well. So thank you for having me on your
Thanks.
channel today. This was really, really fun. I'm sorry I have to go so
No
soon.
worries. I know we went way longer than we thought. So really appreciate you hopping on here. And it's great to get your perspective on all this.
Yeah, this was awesome. So thank you for having me. This was really fun, getting me into the mood, getting me hyped for this upcoming season, which is starting in less than a week, which I'm very excited. It was incredible to meet you, Matthew, and hopefully we can all get together sometime
Game
soon
night's coming.
for hanging out and talking more about the challenge. So thank you.
Anytime. Thanks,
Take
Drew.
care, Drew. Bye.
Bye.
Care.
Okay,
All right.
so I did say drama and strategy. And so drama is kind of like what Drew's saying here. It's like me being tied into these people's stories. So it kind of also, someone said like the OGs, like, yeah, OGs and strategy. Like, I do like the nostalgia is always being brought in every single season. And that's probably why I didn't really care for season 38 that much, because I just don't have a history with any of these new players, really. Like, yeah, I've seen them on their original seasons, and some of them I like more than others, but like, I haven't lived a life with them. I haven't seen them go through breakups and go through, maybe some of them, but you know what I mean? I just haven't lived a good portion of my life with them. And so I'm just not as emotionally invested with the new school cast. And so, yeah, I watch for the drama because I have a history with them, and I love strategy, and I love seeing how people interact with each other in these social strategy games. I find it really fascinating being able to observe people, and I think that the challenge is the best format to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And the audience, for the most part, agrees too. 81% picked competition, 75% picked drama, politics at 45%. A lot of really good write-ins, though, too. And a lot of what you're saying, what Drew was saying, nostalgia, uh, funny moments, continuation of people's stories. Like, that is really what the challenge is all about. So, yeah, really, like, it was really cool to see some of the write-ins here.
And you know
Again, a
what? I
lot of
think
all
that's
of the
what I
above.
don't like about the Vacation Alliance and some of the new school is I can't remember who was calling it out. It was probably like Jemmy or Tina was saying that, I think it was Tina actually, that new school are trying to create these storylines to come onto the season with. And that's freaking boring. We want to see organic storylines. We don't want to see like, okay, like, so we're going to be fighting for a bit, and then we're going to like, wake up at near the end of the season. Like, I don't want to see these feigned storylines that they're doing just for the show. I love seeing organic storylines come to the surface. So that's also why I don't really jive with the new school, is that they come in with an agenda, and instead of it being organic.
Yeah, and I mean, there's that, and then also just I feel like there's just a little bit too much control on their end. Where like something that was great back in the day, like we'll use Wes and Kenny as an example. They genuinely did not like each other, but they both had a large amount of power in the game. And it was very interesting to see, like, all right, where is the power gonna, like, who's gonna shift the power this season or this episode? Whereas now it's like, all right, we're casting 10 people that are best friends, then 10 other people that just want to be in that crew. And then there's like 3 or 4 people that are against that crew.
It's like,
And it's like, okay, well, those 3 or 4 people are just going to be the first 3 to 4 people that are leaving. And it just doesn't make for as exciting TV when it's everything is already set in stone. So, yeah, a little, yeah, definitely, I totally agree with this. Like, I like the mix. Like, obviously, I'm not the biggest fan of like the physical competition part, but it is part of the game, and I like a good elimination as well as much as anyone. I like a good daily. I don't want that to take away from the drama, which I think has happened a little bit too much lately. But I definitely agree. Like, you need a mix.
well, and for me, I say this all the time. It's not that I'm against physical competitions. It's that I prefer seeing ordinary people doing these physical competitions, and that have become better. Like, Cara wasn't super great physically when she first started, but she put the effort in to make herself better so that she could compete on that level. I don't really care that much when they bring in an Olympic athlete to come and do the show, because it's like, well, we know that they're going to be good athletically. You're playing against people that aren't major professional athletes, and they're doing these things. And so I like seeing ordinary people push their limits to become better and to become great or whatever, as opposed to seeing people come onto the show that's probably why I'm just like not that impressed by Jenny, because I mean, she's absolutely a physical specimen, like she's super strong, but like I want to see her on the show and become that super strong person because she wants to do better. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, definitely. Well, the last question I have really here is
oh shoot,
favorite
I
challenger.
popped you out by
Oh,
accident.
who is your favorite challenger of all time? There was no options here. It was just open ended. I will say the number one answer here, very overwhelming, pretty obvious, was
CT?
CT. Yeah, CT had 220 votes.
Oh, he's a
Um,
third, yeah.
yeah, so he had yeah, almost a third of the votes here, which wasn't entirely surprising. But who's
Did
your
Jenna
favorite
make the
challenger?
list? I don't know if Jenna's going to be up there.
Jenna did get 3 votes.
Okay.
Honestly, it was like the top few, like the top four were top five were CT, Cara, Wes, Bananas, and Jordan. And after that, everyone had between 1 and 14 votes. So it was very spread out from there. But the top five was kind of the big names that you'd expect.
I expect those names, and I agree with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, like obviously, I'm a Veronica guy through and through.
How many
Uh,
votes did Veronica get?
Veronica got 4 votes, one of them being mine.
Do you want me to
Also,
go
I
and give
mean,
her a fifth vote?
Amanda's up there for me, Ashley, Coral. A lot of these just like more drama girlies are the ones that I tend to like a little bit more. CT is definitely up there for me. DM, we talked about DM earlier.
Full story.
Those are yeah, those are the big ones there. Um, and then I did have one other question that was thank you for filling this out. Was this fun? Either yes or no, the guy that created it sucks. And 4% of people say that I suck.
How
So
many?
4%. So 96% of people don't think I suck. But if only 4% of people hate me, I'll definitely take that.
Why they don't hate you? They're probably maybe they follow you on Twitter and they're like, don't agree with you sometimes.
No, it's okay. 4%. That's good. I'm quite happy with that. If 96 or 97% it says like me.
No, I think it
But
was
yeah, that's
super
it.
fun. Thank you for, A, doing the questionnaire, B, wanting to share it. Whoops, I keep on popping you out because it was where anyways, when Drew moved, it moved everything on the bottom. So it was just from natural habit of where I was clicking out this screen. So yes, and wanting to come and do it on the channel. Thank you so much. Very fun.
Oh, it's my
You would
pleasure. And
get a vote, a yes vote from me.
yeah, the I wanted to include the one about the people from other shows, but there were just so many options that it's like, all right, we're not going to go through. Let's see, like a lot of people just said no or nothing, but there was 301 submissions from different people from other shows. A lot of Love Island though, so hopefully they'll listen to what the people want. I I'm going to put this on I'm going to post the results in like written form on like Reddit as well, and I'll share the link on Twitter and Facebook as well. So people that can either be
You get to
directed
watch
here
live.
and watch, or they
Mm.
can just check out the results on Reddit.
100%. Yeah, I will definitely I'll make a post on Instagram. We were live for the first hour on Instagram. But yeah, I'll make another post and get people to see these results to get everybody hyped for the season because the only way that we get another season if we get some eyeballs on this one. So it doesn't seem like from what Theo is saying is that MTV isn't doing that much work with promoting the season. Maybe we should talk about that a little bit before we completely sign off. Like, what's going on
Yeah, it's
here? Why
unfortunate.
is the challenge not supporting the show?
I really don't get it because they have been posting a little bit. Like they're doing these like little Instagram videos, but we
Yes.
haven't got like a super trailer even. The promotional material hasn't been what I would expect for season 40, especially like looking at Survivor 40 was just 3, 4, or 5 years ago. And that seemed like a huge deal. But season 40 of the challenge just hasn't been getting that much. And even if it does pick up, it's kind of like the season is starting next week. So they've kind of lost that opportunity to build ground there. So it's a little disappointing. I don't know if that's a sign that maybe the season won't be good. I hope that's not the case, but I just don't understand why they wouldn't be promoting it more.
Me neither. Well, Miko, thank you so much for staying up to watch this. 2 a.m. That's dedication. We
We
greatly
appreciate
appreciate
that.
this. No promotional budget, so maybe because they have a lot of bigger names this season, like maybe they don't have that in the dollars. I don't know. I just don't
Yeah,
understand paying for players and then not having any money to promote. I feel like somebody needs to flesh out that budget a bit better.
well, so like realistically, like yeah, they should have thought that through, and they didn't need to put 40 cast members on. Like it could have been 32 cast members, like a normal season. Just cut one guy and one girl from every team, every era, and then you save a shitload of money right there that you can spend
I
on other
think
things.
that's going to happen at the beginning of the season, but
Well, but yeah, exactly. So if that happens, they're still having to pay their appearance fees, though,
that's
right?
true.
So if like let's just say CT gets knocked out right away, they're still paying him his 100K or whatever he gets, 50K. So it's like, all right, well, if we're gonna pay them anyways, why not just have less people that we have to pay appearance fees to and use that money on promotional or getting a better house for the people? Because Jordan seems to say the house was not very great either.
AK is asking me if I know about the Real TV Fantasy League, where I can get a point system. I can get my point system that I do every year. No, I do not know anything about this. Do you know anything about this?
They actually just followed me on Twitter recently. I don't know much about them, but they literally followed me last night on Twitter. So maybe it's something I'll look into.
Okay, we'll look into it and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Matthew, for coming up with the idea, for wanting to share it with everybody. Do you have anything else going on that you want to share with the people?
No, the only thing really, a friend of mine and I are we're going to be starting up a YouTube channel as well. More talking about kind of sports and reality TV as well. We might dabble a little bit in challenge content, but I tend to do most of my challenge talking with you. So uh, a friend of mine and I are going to be starting a podcast about kind of pop culture and sports, mostly NFL in the coming weeks, but something I'll kind of announce a little bit closer to maybe when we do our draft next week. But on the
And do you
horizon.
have a name for that yet?
Not yet, because we're trying to figure out what we want to lean into more. So once we kind of decide what we want the focus to be, we're going to come up with the name from there.
Well, amazing. Congratulations. We obviously support anybody starting podcast channels because we know we like to talk. And so I appreciate anybody else that wants to start a platform and talk as well. So that's awesome. Congrats. Congrats on that. So yes, like Matthew is saying here, that we will be going live on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern to do our draft. It will be myself, Matthew, Michele, and Fanta will be coming along for the ride. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel just so that you are going to be getting any sort of updates of when we go live. If you ring that bell, you'll get that notification. Like this video. Let us know if we got anything wrong, if the audience got anything wrong, if there are any questions that you wish that you knew the answer to, because we could always do a round two with what we didn't answer or what we didn't poll the audience about. So we want to hear all your thoughts about how this went for you and maybe what you'd want to see in a future questionnaire. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's it.
Please do let us know those things because with the amount of responses we got here, 620, and it's still open. So if there are other questions or things we should ask, more than happy to do that. And maybe a little bit shorter. We won't do 40 questions next time, but we can always do one of
Do
these again.
41. No, I'm
And
kidding.
yeah. For next season we'll do 41.
AK, do you know what, AK? I think I actually did this for Survivor with RHAP. I think we had a group and we did So yeah, let me look into that. Maybe we'll do our draft that way as well. Like, I don't know. I have to look at the app, but okay, I'll look into it for sure and see if we can make it a little bit more interactive, our draft. But yeah, thanks, Matthew. Thank you, chat. You guys are the best. Like, subscribe, comment. Bye.